Hello, everybody. Welcome to Badonkagonk for the first time over here on Wave Squadron. We've been over on Twitch doing the live streams, but now we have transitioned over to our all Star Wars channel.
Yep, the one-stop shop for all things Blind Wave Star Wars, right?
Blind Wave Star Wars.
Yeah,
sure.
Blind Wave Star Wars.
That sounds like a mouthful.
I think it was kind of a
We
mouthful.
need a catchier.
All right, a catchier thing.
Catchier
all right,
slogan.
trust only in the poncho. Because today
Let's just assume that's
is a Cal Kestis day. Today we're going to be talking about Jedi Fallen Order, a game that Aaron and I played both years ago and very recently.
Yes.
We're going to be talking all about Jedi Fallen Order. We're going to be talking about Jedi Battle Scars, which is a novel that takes place between Jedi Fallen Order and something else we're going to be talking about very briefly, but very with a lot of anticipation.
Sure.
Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, and most of my thoughts on the on Jedi Survivor, most of my thoughts, I've tried to stay away from as much of it as I can.
Yep.
We've reacted to a few things.
Couple things.
But I haven't seen too much on it.
Yes.
So there's still a trailer that you and Calvin did that I still have yet to see.
There is. And I would say that was one of the bigger ones.
Like spoiler-wise, or?
Not really spoilers. I feel like the game's done really well with not telling you what's going to be happening.
Well, I don't know anything, so I feel like I'm spoiler-free for the most part, except for that fighting stances.
Yep.
And that might be it.
The last trailer.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what was in it.
Yeah. See? You don't remember.
Was
you,
Christian Bale in it?
Yeah, he was not. I was going to mention that.
So, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. We just finished Fallen Order stream yesterday, which was a lot of fun. On that, we also announced that we will be having a giveaway tomorrow.
Someone's working down the hall on the ship.
Yeah.
They're all freaked out about what we keep seeing outside.
It's crazy.
It's fine.
But the giveaway we will be having tomorrow on stream with Jedi Survivor. It's going to be a PlayStation 5 as well as a copy of Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
And a headset to go with the PS3 or PS5.
Absolutely.
PS3 is old. Why I say 3?
I don't know. We have them to show here somewhere, but we got moved into this other hall. They got like all their stuff hanging up, but Badonkagonk moved the whole table in here, so I don't know. We'll find that PS5 and get that sent out whenever there's a winner.
Yes, we will. So
someone
make sure you guys are here tomorrow. Stream will be starting at 12 o'clock, which it's like 3 o'clock right now, so use that for reference.
Yes.
Wherever you live.
All right.
And we'll also have it posted, too, on Wave Squadron, so you'll be able to hit the little notify button so you don't miss out on it. We should have that up later today.
Yep.
So, all right. Should we talk about, I don't know, anything related to Cal Kestis then? Also, I guess before we do that, if you guys do have any questions, I do believe you can submit questions. There's a Q&A thing in the bottom left that we can have Gonk, I think, maybe do.
Okay.
As long as Gonk is logged into, he's not. Gonk needs to switch over, but we'll work on getting the question stuff switched over and fixed at some point.
Alrighty.
So
Absolutely.
there should be a question submission thing called Q&A, and we'll get that fixed.
All right, well,
put up.
work on that.
But in the meantime, let's talk about Cal Kestis.
Yeah, let's. Man, I saw so many Cal Kestises at Star Wars Celebration. This is actually our first Badonkagonk since Celebration, too, which was a lot of fun. We were out there in London, and we saw a lot of Cal Kestises. So there's a lot of love out there, and it makes a lot of sense because he's a fantastic character.
He is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be more prominent there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite as prominent as I thought it would be.
Other than them sponsoring, like, the whole thing.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
No, like there was screens with it everywhere, and it said Jedi Survivor a lot, but I was expecting a little bit more Cal Kestis-y things, I guess.
Sure.
Like I remember at Chicago, like Fallen Order I think was getting ready to come out, and like he was out on the floor, and I remember like, oh look, he's over here. But they did do a live thing.
They did.
And
we watched that.
We watched that, yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
We still don't know if there's more Poncho. But speaking of Poncho, let's jump into Jedi Fallen Order. Which, again, I played this a long time ago. I think I played it 3 times since, and then I watched you play it here this last couple weeks now. And yeah, I still don't get bored of it. I love, in terms of like gameplay. I want to talk about the gameplay and stuff, but I really want to get into the story and the character.
I think both are really good.
Yeah.
Cal is a new original Jedi for the game that I grew on fairly quickly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Like it wasn't like I was like, oh, okay, they're doing this kind of thing, whatever. I was like, oh, cool. I like this, and we're seeing the story and the trauma he's gone through and how he's been trying to survive and how he did survive Order 66 and a lot of interesting things. And it just a lot of times you don't get that with Jedi right away. You know?
Oh no, I really think that Braca is like the perfect opening level for him too, because it does a lot of things. The most important is he's literally living in the graveyard of the Clone Wars.
Yes.
Right? The Clone Wars happens, Order 66 happens, and then everything is just thrown in the trash, including Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
And he's been there ever since.
No, and it was cool when we were replaying through because we were seeing things like here's a bunch of clone trooper helmets, here's a bunch of battle droids all put aside. You're seeing like vehicles and aircraft and the Lucre Hawk being like crashing into the planet and stuff. And it's really cool to see like, the graveyard for the Clone Wars. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. But the game wastes no time. It introduces you to the character of Prof, and you think, oh, okay, this is going to be our side character. Sweet, I like him. And Abinetto, he seems cool. I like his voice. He obviously knows Cal is special in the beginning. Like the first time we see those two together, he like immediately says, oh, Cal can do that thing that's going to give us double the rate, right, to the droid overworker or whatever, overseer. Like, he knows Cal's special somehow in that he can do these crazy maneuvers. He's really good on his feet. He can, jump and all that stuff. But it's not until the moment that Cal saves him that he knows, oh, I've heard the story of these things called the Jedi. You're one of them.
Sure.
And then he immediately still tries to protect him, It's really cool. Like, one of the first things he says is, like, there's, like, huge bounties on you guys, And we know that he's hurting over the last couple years since the Clone Wars, going from an engineer to a scrapper, right?
Yeah. No, he was, and I don't know. You're right. I think it's interesting to have a character who can go from I'm going to learn the secret that can earn me a lot of money if I tell people, but it also, I guess, depends on how much love they have for the Empire, right, or how much they believe in the Empire. Yeah. Because we also saw, like in Tales of the Jedi, where someone's like, a Jedi? Ooh, I'll get rich by turning in this Jedi, and they do that, and the Inquisitor comes and burns down their whole village.
Right?
Yeah.
I like, you will be rewarded.
Yeah. And he's like, but I did what you said. I'm loyal to the Empire. And, like, that's not the best way. So, honestly, him being that way just proved that he was not loyal to the Empire, didn't believe what the Empire did. Yeah. But was more willing to stay with his friend. Yeah. Who saved his life. So, I think it's a good comparison because you see that where it's like Ahsoka saved a life. But then someone turned her in. It wasn't the person who saved her life, though. Yeah. Those people usually are like, thank you so much. You are caring, as opposed to Empire and Inquisitors and all these other people. So yeah. But no, Prophet was a great character for the short time we had.
He was. I only got one complaint, and that's he's not named after a Beastie Boys song.
What would you name him?
I don't know. I'm not sure which one, but it's got to be.
Like,
actually, the developers of Jedi Fallen Order actually came out later and said, we had no idea. We would have done it if we knew.
Call him like Sab Otage?
Yeah, Sabotage.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the name you can do.
Sabotage. That's not too bad.
So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I guess you can have a complaint with that. There's we only know of like 3 of them total, right? Like, at least, especially like between movies, TV shows.
Pretty much.
Maybe in
4,
comics
I think,
there's others.
But yeah.
So if there's others in comics and stuff, I don't know if they follow the same rules or not. But they might just not have names. You just see them in the background.
Yeah. Anyway, so from Braca, we meet the second sister, who I think remains my favorite Inquisitor.
Out of all of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think
even the Grand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the Grand Inquisitor, but Grand Inquisitor is more of a symbol and a presence than he is like an actual character that's gone through stuff for me. I don't really know much about him other than his fear of Vader and his superiority over the others, And I think that can be cool, and it can make definitely for a good antagonist. But Trilla, the second sister, is way more of a character. It's a little more like Reva from Obi-Wan for me,
Which we lightly talked about a little bit yesterday, I think. But I think there's some comparisons that they're very similar between like Reva and Trilla, I think, and like the way they act or what they're after, or even just trying to like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna let you go so that I can get the bigger fish that I'm after, and like I'm sure a lot of Inquisitors do that kind of stuff too, but we especially see it between those two.
It's extremely fun to watch the scene when Cere and Greez come in on the Mantis to save Cal during that first fight with the second sister. And when you watch it knowing that, okay, Cere has no idea that's Trilla, but Trilla knows that's Cere, and she has that moment, just like a small hesitation. It's like, Cere. And she goes from playing with her food to, I'm going to kill everybody on that ship. She jumps on it, tries to do Shatterpoint, you know?
Trying to pull the ship down and everything.
That's one of my... I always like when Star Wars can do that, whenever it can recontextualize after you know the secrets, right? Like, the first time you watch, 1977, you watch Ben Kenobi, and he's talking about the Clone War, and he's talking about Vader who betrayed and murdered your father.
Sure.
Like, that's a completely different feeling than when we watch it now, and we know, I know the difference.
When you've seen the Clone Wars and what the Clone Wars were, and you've seen what the first 3 movies are, and you're like, now I have context of this.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's in a weird way, I feel like a lot of that still works with Ben Kenobi as far as like kind of like the way he's thinking about it and looking
100%.
at it. It's not like it's like, well, that's weird because what did Alec Guinness know about those? Just whatever.
He's just a classically trained actor where he's like, when you say lines like this, you're going to be thinking about something. What do I think about? I don't know. We'll make some shit up.
Just make it look like I'm thinking about something. So.
Yeah. Clone Wars. What's the Clone Wars?
So, no, I agree. It is fun to have that, and I'm hoping to have more of that too throughout just all the new Star Wars stuff that we're getting, right? Including new stuff leading into, which is going to be a weird thing because we haven't gotten to really talk about Celebration except for the Celebration videos we did on the channel separately.
Sure.
But there's a lot of new stuff that's coming that they're working on,
there
and I'm
is.
looking forward to that feeding into more sequel trilogy stuff too, and maybe even recontextualizing some of those moments and stuff too, like we've had with the original trilogy or with the Clone Wars, what they do to like Episode 3 and that kind of stuff, or like what Plagueis did with Episode 1. But
that one really does it.
Hopefully they kind of redo some of that kind of stuff too. But
we'll see. Maybe not.
Anyway.
To continue my love of Trilla and the Second Sister, like I really do think there's nothing about her that I don't like. I think it's the best Inquisitor design. I think that's the best helmet.
What about her saber?
For being an Inquisitor saber, I think I won't say that I like her saber. I think that she is given choreography and moves better than any other Inquisitor.
Sure, I get what you mean. Like her fights that she has, like it looks good. Like
it
the
looks
final
amazing.
Fight that we did, like I have a lot of that ingrained in my head right now because we just did it.
Yes, you do.
And it was like we
so do I.
We spent so much time through the story mode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll do Jedi Master for the last part.
Yep.
So like it was a little tough. Like let me readjust to this. But a lot of those fight moves and stuff, like they really do kind of flow in from one to another.
Very well.
And there's a few of those that like it looks like she's starting one move and then she takes off and does another move.
Yeah.
Which is. It gets intense.
But the actor that portrays her, like the voice, the presence she has when she has the helmet on, you don't know who she is. I feel like it's very Vader, but in terms like of intimidation, like the tone, up and till that point, that was, in my opinion, kind of the scariest an Inquisitor had been, especially because she had her own specific like that high string theme. As well, that just as soon as she came on the screen, it was just instant tension, which I think is pretty great too. But
I think she's better than the other Inquisitor in the game. Is it the 5th?
The 9th sister.
The 9th?
Yeah.
I knew it was an odd one. I'm like, shoot, which one is it?
Yeah.
5th brother. There's a 7th sister is in Rebels, I think, right?
Yeah.
But I think Trilla's better than the 9th sister.
I agree.
Like, there's not much there, so it's just kind of like another bad guy. It's possible.
My
maybe.
sister also appears in like comics and stuff too, so we don't have everything that we've ever gotten.
That's
from
true.
her.
Yeah. They kind of do that a little bit with, honestly, with Battle Scars. You kind of get a little bit of that kind of stuff too, where it's like, well, here's someone. It's like, well, we don't know a lot about them. He's like, yeah, but they were in another stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
It has that feeling of like, okay, it's always cool when you can have characters crossover, but that's the reason the 9th sister kind of just like, there was an explosion and she left. And it's the same thing in the book. Like, there was an explosion and they left.
Sure. Like, we cut off her arm and pushed her out of a tree.
Yeah.
And then we never saw her again.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, well, maybe she'll show up again in the next game, or I don't know. I don't know where she is in comics or any of that kind of stuff, too, with, like, could she have died from somewhere other, some other Jedi or someone she was hunting or whatnot. So,
but I think that's why Trilla works so well. She has such a clear beginning, middle, and end to her character arc, and you experience it in a way that only a game can kind of tell you, which is over the course of, like, 10 hours. you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of what we get with Cere in Fallen Order, and leading into the book and stuff too, is interesting and is some things that I think Jedi would struggle with, especially in this dark time of the
times,
Jedi. We've seen Obi-Wan where he is struggling with what he's gone through and what he's done, and where the Jedi Order is left now. Cere's kind of in a similar, I think, boat where she had her master who had, this holocron and everything.
Cordova,
she has her Padawan who has been lost to the dark side and everything. And like her tapping in the dark side in one of those kind of moments with that one flashback scene that we see is something that I think a lot of Jedi would fear, but also I don't know that I can necessarily blame them in this moment that they're in. That it's the most susceptible time to kind of tap into that.
I would say so. She's a really good mirror to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and just how much we need to admire that when he says, like, it takes strength to resist the dark side, like, he's stunting on people. That's how strong I am, because it's easy to go to the dark side. Cere and Obi-Wan both have feelings of immense guilt in what they've done to their apprentices, right? They're kind of going through the same thing. They both cut themselves off from the Force, but Cere, I always feel like, has this feeling of, like, if I wanted to, I could take it back, but it's going to be dark. Obi-Wan is afraid of it, doesn't want it, and then is kind of led back into it through, much like with Cere, right? Connecting with someone that needs help and being a mentor for somebody. The destiny of a Jedi Master. But yeah, I love the whole crew of the Mantis, but Cere is the one that I think that from like my first playthrough to now, I think I've changed the way I've kind of thought about her in a little bit, especially because, it's hard, I feel like, to shake that first initial gameplay thing where you're like, okay, wait, who is this? Wait, she's a Jedi? Wait, she's Trilla's master? Wait, she did what? Wait, she's, and one of the only Jedi characters that's not Obi-Wan Kenobi that gave Vader a little bit of resistance.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, he was like, you would make a great Inquisitor, because he can sense she uses the dark side.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think comparing her with Obi-Wan and the things they're going through just works really well. I didn't have that when I first played.
Yeah.
I didn't have that kind of comparison. And looking at like the older movies too, the original trilogy, there's lots of things in there where it's like, oh, okay, so Luke is a Jedi. Oh, so his dad is Vader. Oh, so he has a twin sister.
Sure.
There's a lot of things, and now it's just like that's what it is.
That's what it is. And when you watch it, you're just like, yes, I know this, and I love it. know,
so
but you're not really thinking about like how it's making you feel in the moment.
Sure.
When a character does something good, bad, aggressive, annoying, like how that can affect your enjoyment in the moment. And if you don't rewatch or replay like we have, like that can just stay with you.
Sure. And also, like we were talking about recontextualizing sometimes, seeing what Obi-Wan's gone through and how he reacted to everything in that. I mean, this is kind of a similar time, right? Obi-Wan's going through the same kind of stuff right now, right? What is this? This game kind of takes place 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then the next game's going to be like 15, I think,
15,
right?
Yeah.
So, like, we're going to be hitting around the Obi-Wan Kenobi time in the
would.
next game. So, this is all happening relatively close to each other, and it's interesting to see how it's affecting different Jedi and stuff, too. So, I really enjoyed Cere a lot.
Sure. Maybe this kind of flows into later with, like, where do you think Survivor could go? But you mentioned Master Cordova, who is Cere's master, right? He was a recluse, someone that kept to himself. That's the only reason that she knows about Bogano at all, is just because that was really the only person that he was close to, was his apprentice.
Yeah.
He says that he's meditating in the Zepho chamber, and he's granted a premonition. He's like, my work and my knowledge will be used by a Jedi, a Force user, later to, in a time of great darkness. Like, and you will save the galaxy. Like, that's his premonition, right? And he thinks, I imagine, like, it's about this Jedi holocron that he was able to smuggle away that has a list of Force-sensitive children, and only a Jedi or someone that can use the Force, the light side of the Force, can open it, right? But he also has that added thing of, like, also, I need to trust you, so I need to make sure that you can understand where I'm coming from, and my understanding is coming from this ancient
years of research
civilization
of these temples
on the Zepho.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting and really cool. The only thing I wanted to talk about, though, is, like, he's granted that premonition and stuff, but Cal and Cere both agree to reject using that list.
Sure.
So do you feel like I know always in future the motion, the always in motion the future is, and, misguided or misinterpreted prophecies can be, all that type of thing.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that slightly undercuts what Cordova was trying to do?
So his prophecy is that his research and everything he's gone through will then push through to bring back a new order, right?
He said he was granted in the Zepho chamber a premonition of the dark times, and that there will be someone that's going to see all of this stuff that I am currently recording, and they will use it to save the galaxy.
Sure.
Right?
So, I mean, with that, you also have Cal, who ends up getting a premonition as well, right?
Yeah.
And he's seeing what we assume to be a future vision of also, is it real or is it not? Like, it's one of those things in motion and everything. But it looks to be that if he uses this, he's going to start raising a Jedi Order, which will then be hunted down and killed by the Empire, the Purge Troopers, the Inquisitors, all that kind of stuff, right?
So do you think that Cordova misinterpreted his premonition?
I mean, it's only if you think that it means that this holocron and making the Jedi Order in that way is what it's meant to be.
I mean, that's what Cordova thought.
What his premonition could be leading to the new Jedi Order could be going as far as Luke or as far as Rey, where what they do and what Cal does and following in his footsteps and learning the same things could still possibly lead to a new Jedi Order, maybe.
Okay.
So I think you could, but it depends on how you want to interpret it, right?
Sure.
And which is the same issue we have with prophecies of the Chosen One or any of that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I think there's ways that, yes, it could be wrong and he doesn't know what he's talking about, or you know what? He's misinterpreting it and it actually does work to lead him this way.
I like that. I mean, I truly believe, I think misinterpreting prophecies is the only way that prophecies in fiction are satisfying to me.
Sure. Like, he looked at it that way, right? So in his vision, his Padawan and Cal maybe have to come here, take this, and make a Jedi Order. When in reality, Cal, following in his footsteps, meeting BD-1, and going on the journeys that they're going on now, has him on an entirely different path than what he could have been had Cordova never done any of it, right?
Sure.
Which means that maybe influencing Cal is what he needed to do, and that's what his research and everything has done.
I think that's the answer that I arrived at, is that it's what here's what you think is actually happening, but what actually is happening is that Cal, who has during Order 66 and he sees Jaro, I really love that shot of Cal's about ready to get shot and whimpers just for a second, just enough to remind you that he's like
a kid,
10. And Jaro looks back and he's like, and he has this moment of I'm gonna do something because I like this kid, not I'm gonna save the Jedi. It's like, no, that kid, he needs to be saved, which I think has a commentary on what happened with Trilla and Cere and all that stuff. Yes, but that pain and that wound, Cal talks about, it's broken his connection to the Force. Cal's one of the very, very, very few Jedi that are still around. And through Cordova's missions, messages, what he learns about the Zepho, what he remembers about Jaro, all those things help him repair that connection, right? Because he talks about this is towards the beginning of the game, but he's like, when I reach out to the Force and I try to meditate, that feeling, that moment of what happened with Order 66, it all comes back and I explode, I rage out, he doesn't come out and say it, but he touches the dark side when he does those things. He's a very aggressive character whenever he's like, I gotta go into it's business mode,
Sure.
So I do kind of like that Cordova's message, his prophecy, something that can quote unquote save the galaxy, is actually kind of about healing Cal and creating a full Jedi Knight who's knighted in this game.
Yeah, because how much more power and stuff does he connect with by doing this mission and doing what he thinks he's supposed to be doing?
Sure.
When he's given a vision of maybe what he should actually be leading into.
And I also really like it, too. I mean, obviously, it's a video game, and this works very well for progression of what your character is able to do. But for a reason to have a trained Jedi not know basic moves, I think it's pretty good, right? He has that broken connection, and then he has these visions of his training with Jaro, who kind of gives him permission to start using the Force more, right?
Yeah.
Because at first he's scared of it. Cere is so scared of it that she just doesn't even use it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Cal still uses it, but he can only do slow, and he has the instincts to reflect, bolts, but he can't do the push. He can't do a lot of the stuff that we see him do later in the game. But I do like the idea that with the visions of Jaro, it's like Jaro's giving him permission to be like, hey, remember, you can do this for knowledge and defense.
Well, even leading him up into the Dathomir confrontations, right? When he breaks his saber and when he when he just stands there, right? And
he does.
Jaro stops, and it's like testing him, and whether it's a vision he's having, it's the temple that's doing it, it's related to his he has that what's it called, the psychosis thing, the
psychometry.
Having all that kind of stuff too. I don't know exactly what does it, but all of that ends up helping Cal to reach the potential that he needs to get to, you know? And I like having Jaro being even though he's gone, it's still his master helping him get to his full potential, which maybe he's reached or maybe he hasn't, you know? I don't know.
We are what they rise above, or what was he going to say? We are what they move beyond, or something like that.
Something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact line right now. Again, I have not been doing trivia. I haven't been watching as much as I used to, which is like at least a movie a day.
A movie a day. So no, I think the whole course that he's on and everything, I'm excited to see where we go with some of the story in the Survivor. Just because also Battlescar, like some of the things that we kind of have leading into and stuff.
Between Cordova's prophecy, a certain couple things that are mentioned in Battlescars, I have some theories for the game you're going to be playing tomorrow.
Yeah, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, me too.
Another character we haven't really talked about, though, was Greez.
Greez.
And I really like Greez.
Yeah.
I think that he's in a way, he's a little bit of a comedic factor for it.
Sure.
There's that scene when we were playing, and I didn't remember it, but he just, like, salts his food for, like, a very long time. And we're like, he's still going. I don't even remember what they were saying at that point. I'm just watching him like, when's he going to stop? Is it salt? Maybe it's sugar, you know? But just some funny things like that he says. And I love listening to the dialogue. Like, he has a history. It comes back to bite us a little bit in the game.
It comes up to bite us in a big way.
So, like, I like those connections to things that it's like, look, here's this character. He could just be the pilot, and that's all it is. But his history and where he's gone is also a part of this story and causes problems. And I like that they did that.
I mean, when you think about Cal, who has been stuck on Braca and doing nothing, Greez, who was a degenerate gambler and in debt, Cere, the tortured Jedi Master that loses her connection or gives up her connection to the Force, they're all just kind of like stunted with nowhere to go. And it's only in like connecting with each other do they go, how do I make myself useful? You know? I do kind of wish I got the inception of Greez and Cere's relationship a little bit more, you know?
Sure.
If I have two regrets, it's that we didn't get to know Greez as much as I wanted to, and I wish we maybe got Merrin on the crew earlier so that we could have just a little bit more time with her too.
Sure. She's fairly late in the game and stuff too.
I mean, it's possible for you to, go around and do some other, change out some of those things.
I mean, you can travel around a whole bunch in the game, but it's not like it's extra. It's trying to find those things, and it's not like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Where do I go? So it's more of like you hear those things when you are like, I mean, 100% the game.
Yeah.
And try to get all the extra secrets and everything.
But I mean, Greez has that important role on the ship, which is just like, should we do that?
Sure.
I know that you guys are these, uber powerful monks that can go around, but like you're all dead, and I need to be the one that's like, he needs to be the one that when the mission goes wrong, he says, I told you so. Right?
Sure. No, I get you. Well, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this holocron's been safe in here for how long? So now we're going to go looking for it so that no one else can get it. It's like, but no one knows it's here.
Exactly.
Like if we leave it here, it's safe.
Yeah.
But
like
also,
Ganondorf can't get into the Sacred Realm unless Link collects the spiritual stones to open the door of time. So just don't open the door of time.
So when we're on Star Wars, it's Zelda we got to connect to. But when it's anything else, it's Star Wars.
I'll go.
I'm like, how do we get to this?
All right. You want me to go to the Bible? I'll do that.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have Cal learning and getting to the point he's at without the mission, but in the same sense, like, Greez probably right, where it's like, just leave that there.
Yeah.
No one's going to find it and get these kids probably, you know? No one even knows, like, who knows about this planet? The only reason they get there is because they end up, like, following us, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Greez has some points, and sometimes,
he does.
his I told you so is like, he was right.
Yeah. No, and it's hard to separate him from, like, his character from the Mantis itself.
Sure.
Right? That very unique ship, like a pleasure yacht. Obviously, he made a lot of money at some point, bought this thing, and then now he's in debt, and he's like, all right, I'm taking my car before they can repo it.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I like the ship design.
I really do, too.
I
think it's one of my favorites.
I love the rotating wing.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool. And also, like, it bends for landing and stuff, too.
It
like,
does.
The other side and everything.
My favorite thing is just the cockpit that, like, looks out above.
The glass floor.
Yeah.
Where you can look down.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. It's very Mon Cal, like Admiral Akbar, like with his seat being like, what's going on down here?
And the way it is, too, I don't get lost on it.
Yeah.
I would get lost on, what was it called? Melon's gonna be Ebon Hawk.
The Ebon Hawk, yeah.
I would get lost in the Ebon Hawk sometimes.
Really?
Not like, this is too big. I would just be like, all right, this way.
Really?
You know, because it was just a big circle.
Sure.
Like, well, I guess I'll just run around this way until I get to there.
Yeah.
But it's just a hallway.
Just a hallway, pretty
so I'm
much.
like, cockpit, planets, grass,
Yep.
you know, resting, lightsaber.
Exactly.
Like, I just go in a straight line, whichever one I want.
Yeah.
So it was always like, go to the right, go to the left. But the Ebon Hawk, sometimes I'd be like, turn left. Oh, shoot, I wanted to turn right. So I go back to the right.
Yeah.
But I also like the design of the Ebon Hawk. It just is much more falcony.
It's classic Star Wars freighter.
Yeah,
look,
where the Mantis just feels a little bit more unique.
It does. It has like
like
that
that.
element of like an E-wing, kind of B-wing, I should say. Not
B-wing? B-wing, yeah.
Yeah, the
I see
element of that
more.
B-wing. Yeah, that was pretty good. And I love the idea that you can customize the ship, the paint job.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you see it a ton, but you can.
Yeah.
Like BD and all the dang ponchos. Like, you can change a lot of that because you're seeing that all the time, but it's just fun to have the Mantis be like, I'm going to make it a little bit more unique. I'm going to make it look like a N1.
Like an N1. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We also have, I mean, I can't believe we've skipped over this character, BD1. BD1. I love that BD1 gets a Yoda introduction. And that,
Yoda introduction?
yeah, like Cere
Okay.
says, like, there's someone that you need you to meet. And, you know, he immediately is like, oh, it must be a powerful Jedi. You know, just like Luke is there, like a great Jedi, ooh, great warrior, you know? Like,
Sure.
but you're not expecting. Actually, the one you're looking for is the person you've already found. It's classic Star Wars right there. So BD1 kind of gets that. But I think that he's a very unique droid. Like, a lot of droids have personalities, but he has that, like, if R2's like the loyal dog and Chopper is the cat, like, BD1's more of like a puppy dog.
Okay.
I feel like
he's not loyal yet?
No.
do
He's
you
definitely loyal, but he's, you know, he just feels young. He feels like you know,
Okay.
R2 has like a feeling of
So-
age.
So, like, R2 and it's like, oh, you know, open the blast doors or whatever.
Yeah.
And R's like, oh, get to it. Just wait
Yeah.
a second. Whereas
Yeah.
the puppy's like, I'll do it.
Yeah, but
He's,
like
like,
BD,
energetic.
like you know, the way that they vocalize him, like he it's almost like he's singing sometimes. He also like he has the ability to let you know that he's hurt,
Sure.
and looks sad in that way, but also. I just love him just grabbing onto you, like especially during that second sister fight.
Sure.
And you know that he's just like, ah, you know.
I did love, I love whenever you would hack like a KX droid and he'd be like,
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I just think that's so funny.
Yeah.
No, he's really cool. I mean, my biggest thing with BD1 was with his old master, Cordova. I'm like, there's a scene, which is a really nice scene. But from the Jedi perspective, I'm like, it seems like he's really attached to this droid.
Yeah.
Which always felt more Anakin rather than like any other Jedi.
Well, I think that's
know?
why Cordova is kind of like an isolationist.
Maybe.
You know, like I don't think that he finds enjoyment being around a lot of people, but it's history and then this droid that I
Sure.
think that he kind of creates this connection with,
Okay.
right? And
I guess so.
And it might kind of be, I wouldn't call it inappropriate, but it might be kind of like a more personal connection with his Padawan that, you know, like allows us to even find Bogano in the first place,
Sure.
because he kept that secret from everybody. It is not on any map.
I mean, that could be, and that could make sense, I suppose. Because, like, even thinking about, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi and how much, like, they're with R2, and he knows R2 through all the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't remember ever owning a droid. And I've always tried to think about that after watching, like, the older movies and Clone Wars and stuff. And I'm like, is he lying? Or is it just, like, he was so unattached that over the years, he's just forgotten about the droids from the Clone Wars, you know? Because, like, as a Jedi, maybe you would do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's one of the few things about the transition from prequel to original trilogy that I haven't like made peace with.
Sure. It's like, why does he say that? Like,
Yeah.
what's the reason? So, I don't know. Maybe Obi-Wan Season 2 will tell us if they ever do that, you know? Like,
Maybe, right?
why doesn't he remember this
Yeah.
droid? Or maybe he just doesn't care. I don't know. Like, would he
Yeah.
remember Lola? He's going to remember people, you know, but not the droids. So,
Yeah.
But with BD1, I do, in that same sense, I do really love the scene of, like, Cal has, like, lost hope. You know, he got to Illum. He got his
Illum, yeah.
crystal. It's broken in his hands. He's cold. He's freezing to death. And BD1 uses like a sound from Cordova to, like, you know, what is it? It's like, don't give up hope.
It's
or,
his goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see him saying goodbye, and it's luckily we had just had a scene talking about. I don't know. Luckily, maybe it actually was on purpose, and just because where we were going, they did that scene. But like BD1 doesn't remember the last time he said goodbye to his master.
Yeah.
You know. But then having that moment there is like, that's really sweet. And in a way, it's like, this is the best time to be like, I've connected with Cal and care about him so much that I remember my core memory of this.
Yeah.
Because there was an encryption thing.
Yeah,
he talked about trust and stuff.
Yeah, he said he encrypted, and when you find somebody that you can really trust, then those memories will be unlocked.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works in terms of, like, programming a droid.
Sure.
Like, what do you mean connection?
Well, yeah, trust. How do you get trust from a droid and stuff, right?
What does a droid think about trust? I mean, we know, like, R2 knows.
Yeah.
But 3PO might every once be like, trust? What do you mean?
Yeah, right?
Because my program to listen to what you're saying, you know?
Yeah. So I love the scene there. I don't know exactly how it works, but I love that as like another push. Like BD's there being like, it's like the sad puppy dog kind of thing where it's like,
what's what I'm saying.
Get up.
Yeah.
Get up. Why isn't he getting? And he lays there with you kind of thing because he's trying to get you up and you won't get up. It's one of those kind of moments.
Yeah, like, you know, he has that feel like, you know, around the time you actually meet him, like he gets hurt. And it has this, like, feeling of, like, limping. And you're like, oh, sure. I got to protect this thing, you know. But I don't know. Maybe you can say there's something about that specific type of droid that it plays to your empathy. So then it can create some type of connection that it can quantify. I'm not really sure.
Gotcha.
Or Cordova.
So it's like a con droid.
Maybe.
It's like, I'm going to limp so you feel bad for me. And now you're connected to me.
I mean, that's when, you know, when dogs were domesticated, that's the traits that that's what they do, you know. They want food and companionship and to not die, you know? And we built a relationship through thousands of years of living together and domestication and stuff like that. But the base programming's still there, you know? Like, they do it for food.
Sure.
We can read into how much they actually can process and love and care about, you know? There's stories of that definitely happening, and there's stories of that definitely not happening. But BD1 as a droid, I feel like is like designed to make you want to care for it. Whether that's like the game designers trying to get you to form a connection with the character, or in universe, it might make sense to make certain droids like you'll feel bad if you destroy them.
Sure. No, yeah, I get you there. So BD1 I thought was a fun character.
Mm-hmm.
I like BD1. I kind of hope that we get like I don't know. I like kind of acquiring more people for our ship because it felt fairly small in the beginning. But then we did acquire Merrin, which was
Let's move into Merrin,
which was an excellent like addition. I think like you said, we don't get a lot of time with her for her story afterwards.
Yeah.
We get to kind of meet her on Dathomir, which is really cool. Going to Dathomir, we haven't really talked much about planet stuff, whatever. But getting a chance to go to Dathomir and like travel through it and see like the Night Brothers and the last remaining Night Sister that's on the planet, and then have her summon zombies and stuff was like, oh gosh, this, especially with Clone Wars and stuff, it just feels so, I love it.
Yeah, it's very rewarding as a Clone Wars veteran to go to that planet. And even when she first shows up, at first you're like, holy crap, there's a Night Sister alive, and then she uses her green magic and like buffs up those two Night Brothers.
Yeah.
You're like, holy crap, she can do Savage times 2?
Yeah. Great.
And you can see that she's holding the like what's remaining of that crystal ball that Talzin would use, you know? So that was a cool shock and a cool surprise, but I didn't know that I would end up really, really enjoying and liking that character.
Yeah.
You know?
To the point where like I would like to get more from this character at some point. So I've been looking forward to seeing more of her in the future, especially as like the last Night Sister and her. I love her being like, wait, you raised the bricks then for me to get across? Like, yeah. It's like, well, why didn't you help me? It's like, I want to see what you could do first. You know, like she's waiting there watching, and then she shows up to help. And then she's like, I'll join you.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like Cal said, hey, why don't you come with us? She's just like, I've been here. I haven't found the answers I'm looking for. Maybe I'll go with you and find the answers I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, what's the Night Sister going to do with a Jedi? Which is cool.
Especially when Taron Malicos is revealed to be like, oh, he lied all about everything. Okay. Well, if he doesn't like the Jedi, maybe I do like the Jedi.
Sure, right? Like, this guy seems much nicer. If he is a Jedi and he said he was and he's been lying, might as well check it out and see what's going on. So it's cool to have Jedi and Night Sister working together. Like, the closest you get with that is like Ventress and like Obi-Wan. But even still, and I guess we had Quinlan in the recent book, which was cool, and I like that story too.
And a mention of him in the Obi-Wan series.
Quinlan, yeah.
With the Way,
Which, I mean, maybe that's something that you could have in the future. Like, where's Quinlan been? You know, maybe he could show up, but maybe not. You know, I don't know what to expect. I don't want to get too high hopes of like, oh man, we're gonna have this and this and this, and Ezra's gonna be there, you know, or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about maybe like this is the last chance we have to kind of really speculate about what we think is gonna happen in Survivor. So we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
In that segment, But moving on, so we had Merrin and Dathomir. Saw Gerrera on Kashyyyk.
Saw Gerrera was really cool.
Yeah.
The AT sequence was a fun, like you're just swimming and then you climb up those vines like in Shadow of the Colossus or something.
Yeah.
But then to just control an AT, I feel like, I'm trying to remember what games I've done that, because most of the time, that's the enemy you have to destroy, right? How many times have you been on Hoth having to stop AT-ATs, you know?
I think it's just Battlefront.
Rogue One. What?
No, I'm sorry. In
Shadow.
which you're controlling the AT-AT.
Yeah, in Battlefront you get to control an AT-AT, yeah. That's true. But, like, there's so many times that Shadows of the Empire, Rogue Squadron, you know, like, they have those Hoth moments that you got to do.
Yeah.
And it's a very common thing. So controlling an AT-AT is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
You just feel like invincible for a little while.
Yeah. That whole segment has the feeling of, like, I don't know why, to me, it's like, that's like the first thing they worked on.
Yeah.
Because it's so big. It's so, like, grandiose.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do it's like, all right, yeah, we started with that, and then, okay, we got, 12 months left in, production. All right, so now we're on the next thing, and then sometimes you can kind of feel, all right, they got through that one real quick.
All right, let's go to Inquisitus. It's a hallway.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, I get you. It also was, I believe, shown early on with some stuff, because I remember seeing the AT-AT with the Saw Gerrera stuff, and like, Saw's going to be in this. So.
Yeah.
But he also is not in it a ton.
He's not.
I like that he comes to Kashyyyk to try to free the Wookiees and hurt the Empire, but then once he does that, he pretty much like, all right, it's a lost cause. Let the Wookiees do what they want. We're leaving.
Yeah.
And he just kind of abandons them.
Actually, I have a question about that. Do you think, because, I mean, we know Saw. I love Saw. I'm always wary of Saw, and I think that he's really good. I think he's a great leader. The speech that he has when they free the Wookiees and, up on that tower or whatever, it's a really good speech, you know, and I believe in him. But when he is there, he says, we're on a mission. We're trying to disrupt the Imperial supply line. And he specifically targets a refinery that's refining sap. And he says, like, to Cal, it's like, oh, well, you're a Jedi. There's some Wookiee prisoners. Why don't you go do that, and we'll go do this. Do you have the feeling at all that he sees Cal there and almost kind of uses him as, like, okay, this will be a fantastic distraction? Maybe he doesn't care about the Wookiees that much.
Sure.
Maybe he's there to disrupt the sap production line.
I mean, it's possible. I think either way you get both with that, right? Like, he looks at who's there, take advantage of what they do. He's met Jedi before, so what's a Jedi going to do? They'll save people.
Yeah.
They might not help us kill everybody here, even though, like, you kill a lot of people in Fallen Order. Like, there's a lot of stormtroopers and stuff, and I have no problem grabbing a stormtrooper, stabbing them,
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't see their face and their eyes.
Well, I suppose, but there's also, like, I don't know. They started shooting at me first.
They did.
Maybe they should have not done that. You know?
Maybe don't be space Nazis.
Yeah, it's not like there were random Jedi kids that I tried to attack or anything. Yeah, like that would be bad.
You did. I was there.
Curiosity. But no. Could Saw have lied? I think Saw lies a lot.
It's certainly within his wheelhouse. I mean, I do feel like there's a bunch of times where he's like, "You saved the Wookiees," and I feel like, yeah, he really cares, and he feels when he talks about Tarful when you first meet him. I mean, it's with respect. He's like, Tarful, he is the resistance leader. Like, he strikes at the Empire from the Shadowlands. It feels like he does it with respect. But he says that he's there to disrupt the supply line, and then specifically they go to this one refinery, that's creating the explosive out of sap or whatever. Yeah. So I just was something that I was trying to, like, maybe theory craft a little bit. It's like, I wonder if Saw just, like, I mean, we know that he does this. He is the epitome of when Rose Tico in The Last Jedi talks about it's not about fighting what you hate, it's about saving what you love. For Saw, I think it's about fighting what you hate. Sure. He's already lost what he loves.
I mean, I think that disrupting that supply is, if you stop the Wookiees, that's also disrupting the supply. And if you do like what they did in Onderon, where you get the people there to fight or help reinforce the Wookiees with more Wookiees, maybe they will keep the lines disrupted or keep battling there and whatnot too. So in the long run, it helps him.
I wonder if it was easier for him to abandon the resistance there. I mean, he did leave some partisans, or at least some of the partisans stayed.
One of them felt like they stayed because they felt like they had to, but they could have gone with Saw. Yeah. Which was the one, I think, from Zepho that like, ran away.
Mari, I think, was her name. Something
Mari
like that.
or Marianne or Marin. Yeah. Something like that.
But, I wonder if, I destroyed the refinery I was here for, so, yeah, things aren't working out. We got to go.
Yeah.
Which we'll have to get more into our anticipation for Jedi Survivor, because I think that could be a thread that we could pick up.
Sure.
Yeah.
But with that, like, Kashyyyk was a really cool planet to go to.
It was.
There's been times of going to different planets and stuff, and I'm always enjoying exploring different versions of it. Like, we've been to Kashyyyk in Force Unleashed before.
Yep.
I've been to Kashyyyk in KOTOR.
KOTOR.
I feel like I've been to Kashyyyk in Battlefront.
Yep.
At least one of them.
Battlefront
I don't know
too.
which one, but
And we've been to Kashyyyk in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
yep.
What? That's important. The way those houses from the outside look are pretty close to some of the legends.
It's a lot of how KOTOR was. It was a lot like that too. So, but no, having Kashyyyk was really cool, and having the boss fight there was fun. I loved exploring it. It was like naturey but scary too. You know, giant spiders, weird slugs. But it was also really cool to have the giant bird thing moment, which had like a majesticness to it.
Absolutely. It had like what's outside the window. Like, it had that feeling of there's something bigger here. Like, the Empire can't touch it all. I mean, Cal has one of the best lines in the whole game, where it's like, look, there's so much the Empire hasn't touched.
Sure.
You
when
know,
they're flying up high there.
Which I think, like, you need that moment, because, you know, in this game, in the book that we read, like, the feeling of you can't beat the Empire. They will consume everything. We can try, but it's like, I can't imagine actually doing it. But Cal, up on that with that bird up there, can see the horizon. The Empire is not in sight. You know, I think it's a big moment for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in his belief that actually maybe we can do something, because the galaxy, as big as the Empire is, the galaxy is so much bigger.
Sure. Kashyyyk too, with all its wildlife and everything you'd have to do, like getting a foothold where they did for the refinery may have been a hard thing to do. So might be a lot that's not been touched that they'd have to really push into, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Some of the spiders are scary.
Well, yeah, but you know what else is scary? Like, an army of Sasquatches.
Sure.
With
Yeah.
crossbows.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And do Tarzan yells. That's scary.
They did do a Tarzan yell in episode 3. I remember that.
I don't think Raid makes anything for that. I can handle spiders.
Okay.
I'm just saying, the Empire, like, he struck from the Shadowlands. It's badass.
Yeah. No, it's a great line. Shadowlands didn't feel... In KOTOR, they made him feel, like, scarier.
Super scary in
You know?
KOTOR. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming
The
the
kill
lower
axe down
areas that
there.
we were in were still kind of Shadowlandsy,
Yeah.
because it's, like, everything down on the floor of the forest.
Yeah, but it was
But-
also close to the life tree or whatever, the Great Deku Tree, so it's probably not as bad as it could be
Maybe, yeah.
further away from that.
Though, was it Kashyyyk or was it Dathomir that had those weird plants that chased you? I hated those.
The weird plants.
They were like
that
the
chased you?
weird.
Oh, that was Dathomir, yeah.
Right? It was one of those two, right?
yeah.
And they would start
Like
like
a-
following
like
you.
a Zelda enemy almost, right? Like kind
I
of
think
following
so.
you.
Yeah, I think it's one of those.
Yeah, that was, I think, was it Kashyyyk maybe? No, yeah, you're right. It was Kashyyyk. There is one part where you're kind of in the Shadowlands and you're going over those like Venus flytraps and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the feeling I did when I played KOTOR, but I was also a child
sure.
that got scared
Yeah.
easier.
The big Rancor and Terrors was scary.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like,
true.
I don't want. I'll stand at this doorway and shoot. Run away.
Yeah.
And then we also had, and we mentioned it very briefly, but there's also the time that you've broken your lightsaber, and so you got to make a new lightsaber, and you got to get a crystal, so you go to
There's only
Illum.
one place I know to go.
Yeah, and like I remember the first time playing that, like that was just a reveal of like, I get to go to Illum.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, what's this gonna be like? I'm so excited.
Yeah. It's the reason, like, you know, we're currently in, like, a pre-release phase with Survivor. We're currently in a pre-release, 2 big games, like, you know, Tears of the Kingdom, where, like, whenever I do try to, like, search out or hear, like, what are people saying? Like, are they excited? And there's all this kind of, like, well, this game's going to suck. There's nothing in it, you know? Like, they're not showing anything. It's like, they shouldn't show it. They shouldn't show what's going to be there. Illum, that moment with Illum only works if I have no idea I'm going to Illum.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like the further we go, like as the years go by, the more people are just impatient and feel like, oh, it's gonna suck because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's like, ignorance is bliss in fiction. You shouldn't know things.
Sure. No, it's well, man, I should know more about a book so I can buy it and read it. And then it's
Yeah.
like, well, now that you know everything about the book, you don't really have a point to read it
Yeah.
because you already know what's going to happen. There's no surprises, no twists, no turns.
Yeah, but that moment of Illum is fantastic, and it's only surpassed when you realize what they're telling you about Illum.
Sure. Well, like I love going in because it's the gathering, right? There's that whole element. You're solving these puzzles. You're getting through these walls, and you're just there to get your crystal.
Your crystal.
You just need to get your saber. And
well, you're there for the crystal to choose you.
Sure. Yeah. And then going through all that, finally getting it, and then coming out into that doorway. I remember like looking at it, like, what in the world? And like, and you're right. Like we went back to Illum at one point to get another viewpoint of it, and it looks so much like Starkiller Base, and it's like
undeniably Starkiller Base.
This is crazy.
Yeah,
and it just feeds in so much more too of how we talked about before, recontextualizing things. There was a Starkiller Base in the sequel trilogy. What is this stuff? Oh, the Emperor must have been working on a Starkiller Base.
Palpatine initiated
long
that.
ago.
Yeah, it's not just a First Order thing.
Before Episode 4, 5, and 6. You know.
Yeah, you don't think that guy has plans on plans on plans?
Sure.
He gave the most powerful weapon ever created to a Grand Moff? No. He gave the only operational powerful weapon, but I got something working over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
then, you can destroy planets. I can destroy entire star systems with
and that's also not counting like what we saw in the Battlefront game, right? With Cinder, Operation Cinder, which was like a terrible weapon that was maybe not necessarily destroying the planet, but like destroying things and making it uninhabitable
the
and
people
stuff,
on
you
the
know?
planet,
Like, you're just destroying everything, and like now we've destroyed this, and you can't live here. You're gonna be dead or whatever because it was terrible.
Yeah.
So there's been several weapons just in the current canon. Not even looking at like, I don't know, what was that big old moon crusher thing or whatever?
Sun Crusher.
Right? Yeah, that thing, right? I don't know where that came from. Probably was an Emperor Palpatine thing at some point.
But no,
that's
it
a different
was
weapon that like isn't in the
Kip
canon.
Duran was the pilot of the Sun Crusher.
Really?
Yeah, he was a Jedi at Luke's Jedi Academy.
The one who was like not great with the Force but good with animals.
That's Coran Horn. You're thinking.
Oh, is that
he was
Coran
not
Horn?
good at the Force, but he was good with mind tricks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Kip Duran was very strong with the Force.
Was he the one that could time walk?
No, that's Jason.
Dang.
Jason Solo.
All right. There's some, all the Legends things blend
Yeah, I
together.
know. There's a lot that blends together, but no, Kip at the Jedi Academy on Yavin 4, which used to be a Sith temple, actually is like influenced and possessed by a spirit of an ancient Sith Lord. Ends up getting redeemed much later, yes,
Sure.
but also, I know a lot of people love Legends, and I think a lot of people look at Legends with like rose-colored glasses, but there's some goofy stuff in Legends, like Kip has a rainbow-colored lightsaber and stuff, and I remember being like, I don't know about that. Come on. But yeah, he had the Sun Crusher, and he could destroy a sun, which effectively destroys an entire system.
Yeah. But there's another like ridiculous kind of weapon in the galaxy and stuff, where it's like there's been several things. So I think having
that's a theme.
Having Emperor making a Starkiller Base while he's also working on Death Star, and even after he also makes Death Star 2, this one's still not done. That one we know how to make it.
Yeah.
Remake it, make it bigger.
Sure.
So.
And I believe the Death Star 2 was being worked on too during the
beforehand.
Yeah, beforehand as well. Yeah. I don't know, because there's also, like I said, like in Legends, there was a prototype Death Star as well. So we had Death Star 1, Death Star 2 in the movies, and then in Legends, technically Death Star 3, which was just the weapon system, but it was like this is where they were testing everything before they made this one. And that one got destroyed, they made this one, So yeah, Legends has some goofy stuff sometimes. But I like that Illum becomes Starkiller Base because it's a huge, giant, in-your-face metaphor for what Palpatine did to the Jedi, right? He turned everything on its head. He takes where Jedi would get lightsabers and kyber crystals and turns it into something that can take energy from a sun and use it to fire weapons. So not only are you taking energy from a system, then you're also destroying different systems, right? But I think it only works because it's a planet that produces kyber.
Sure.
That's the only way you can deal with it. Like, Starkiller Base is effectively a giant lightsaber.
Yeah. You take the Death Star, and it's using kyber crystals as well to destroy planets, right?
Yeah. But it's artificial, whereas, Starkiller is also artificial, but it's more like a parasite on the planet versus an artificial moon that the Death Star was.
And then you have Palpatine being like, I'm going to take your chosen one and make him my apprentice, you know? So, there's there's lots of examples of him taking like, here's what the Jedi think is good and what
Yeah.
they want, and I'm gonna use it against them.
Jedi come here as children to create weapons, swords that are used for knowledge and defense and to protect people, and I'm gonna turn that holy place into the greatest weapon that's
Sure.
ever been done.
And in the grand scheme of it, if it fails or blows up, there's no more Illum now. You
Yeah.
know, like there's no place for you to do. And I've
Win-win.
destroyed things that you have held dear.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to how like what aren't most Jedi temples built on top of Sith temples to try to negate that, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to remove that history, and you're trying to like, well, we'll get rid of that and we'll make the good stuff here. And
Yeah.
then he's doing the same thing. We're gonna destroy this, and then you guys can't go back to it. Even if you do come back, you won't have this anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
that's why
very
like, Imperial Palace is the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Right? There's a Sith temple. We built the Jedi Temple in that, and then the Emperor of the Universe lives in it. It's such a screw you
Yeah.
to the Jedi. Yeah.
But yeah, Illum was a really cool place to
was.
go to, and I enjoyed the story that we had with that. And honestly, Fallen Order's story for the main part of everything, I think it was done really well, and I enjoyed it.
For a
and had
video
fun.
game story, I would
Yeah.
100% agree.
And it was great to have a Star Wars video game story, not like
Single player.
here's
Yeah.
here's Battlefront, but there's
I
gonna
know.
be a 2-hour story we're gonna make,
Yeah.
or here's shoot, what was it? It wasn't called Rogue Squadron. I'm blanking on it, but the flight game that they came out
Squadrons?
with recently. Squadrons,
Yeah.
just Squadrons, yeah. That one also had a story in it, but it was mainly like here's the
Yeah.
multiplayer aspect.
No,
it
I
was
mean-
cool to have just a story Star Wars game. We hadn't had one of those in so long.
We hadn't, and it was, especially when it came to EA, like EA was going away from single player story experiences and going more into multiplayer stuff, loot box stuff, ways that we can monetize, and ways when it came to that.
Well, how do you keep the game alive for a longer time
Sure.
rather than it being like, well, now
And-
it's done and we don't have any more?
And EA also had the this 10-year exclusive Star Wars deal thing. So I feel like Fallen Order was kind of like, granted, it's not like they. I wanted to say Fallen Order. I feel like saved that type of game, especially with Star Wars, but it's not like EA made much else either. They kind of squandered their 10-year license, if you ask me.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many games that they've announced and canceled or postponed or whatever that 1313 could have been really cool,
Sure.
but
Which I think was being done before the EA exclusive.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I think it might have been canceled after
It might have been.
they took it.
Sure.
I think is what happened. I forget.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor makes it where it's like, look, hopefully these are done well. If they're successful, people enjoy them.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, we can make good story Star Wars games and do that.
Yeah.
And it's people will buy it and they're interested in that. We don't just need to have how do people keep playing the multiplayer and how do we get them to stay playing the same game or whatever.
And for me, it was my first, they call it like a Dark Souls-esque game, right? I had never played anything Dark Souls. I had played Jedi Survivor, and then years later, I played like 6 hours of Elden Ring and realized I'm not good at games.
They're usually definitely types of games where it's like you need to be on your feet and on your toes because there's usually tricks.
Sure.
Like in this game, when you walk in a corner, you walk through a door and in a corner is a guy who's just like, I got you, and he hits you all out of
exactly.
nowhere. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, dang, I didn't.
And you got to
Now I know
that.
he's there.
Now you know. Now
Yeah.
you got to anticipate, which
I've
I
played-
think works for like if you're trying to like, what's the canon of this game? It's like, well, the canon parts are the ones where I don't die.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that I've used the Force to anticipate this move.
Yeah.
Because I literally saw it and died. I think it's kind of a fun way to do it.
Sure. So like having that, learning the moves and trying to like, okay, how do I beat this boss? Like
Yeah.
Trilla is the most, I think, Dark Souls like boss in that game. Fighting the first Inquisitor, the Ninth Sister, I don't feel like even my first time playing through, I had as much trouble as I did with Trilla. Trilla's just tough. It's a little bit more precise of things that you have to do, and a lot more patience sometimes that you need to do.
Yeah, in
too.
terms of like challenge, for me, there's 3 main challenges in the game. It's Dathomir,
Okay.
and then it's specifically Malicos, and then specifically Trilla's final fight.
Gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
those are the things that I remember being like Dathomir just in general was a challenge.
Malicos, I think, is pretty tough too.
Yeah.
I don't remember how long it took me originally on him,
Yeah.
but yeah, that one's a tougher fight too. But no, they are very Souls-like, and it's not quite as hard, but it's similar. It's a little bit more forgiving than I think Souls is.
Yeah.
But it's still similar, and it's a good like foot in the door if you want to like try those kinds of games. Like try this first, and then maybe move on to something else similar.
Yeah. Taron Malicos. We haven't really spoken in depth about him either. I don't know if this would be a controversial or like too much of a hot take, but I kind of wish Malicos was something else.
Like not a Jedi?
Yeah, because we already have Jedi in this story that are, influencing things after Order 66. We have Cal and Cere and Cordova and that's already 3.
Sure.
But even she's a survivor, but second sister. Yeah. Like you already got 4 there. Like I always kind of felt like he was a little more bolted on. That like he didn't necessarily need to be in this story. He was really just more of a vehicle for
Merrin, I think.
For Merrin, but for what Dathomir is kind of meant to be, right? Because we haven't talked really in depth about the Zepho and who they were, what they went through, and the ways they use the Force. But Cordova has this thing where he's like, interesting that the Zepho would be interesting in something as dark as Dathomir. But we know that the Zepho kind of went through something, and that ancient place is a place where terrible things can happen, right? Like that's where Cal gets the vision that destroys his lightsaber and Jaro, and it kind of like, uses his memories and stuff against him. And Malicos is kind of like a personification of that.
Okay.
Right? Like, I feel like he's kind of like half a character.
So, like, because we don't know exactly what he was like when he first showed up.
No.
But, like, is he corrupted while being on Dathomir kind of thing and goes darker with also the Zepho being
all he says is that Order 66 happens, he escapes to Dathomir, and then he just kind of left there.
Yeah. But, like, what did he do while he's there, and what changed him? Because I feel like if he was a Jedi, or he wasn't like maybe he was more Krellish, But, like, he has that one shot, and there's just, like, a bunch of horns from these Zabraks.
Yeah.
He's just dangling from
they only respect strength.
Yeah,
right? The savages only respect strength. No, he has a line where he says, the darkness of this place, referring to the Zepho Temple, and Dathomir itself, I suppose. But I feel like more of the Zepho Temple, because that was definitely the dark side of the Zepho.
Sure.
He says the darkness of this place almost broke me, but I think that he's either ignorant or lying. No, it did break you.
Sure.
Like you're broken. So it's hard. The reason I like Trilla so much is that you can kind of answer. You can see where they were, what they were before, and you have a feeling of what they were before, and then what happened, Order 66, and what happened to them. Right? Malicos is just kind of shows up. He's like, you immediately think he's lying. He's like, oh, I'm just a traveler. On this rock doing nothing.
Yeah, why are you here?
Oh, I'm studying ancient things. And then, like, you're like, well, who really are you? And he takes off he's like, I'm shirtless,
I mean, I think he's great for a boss fight. I think he's really good for Merrin in, like, her comparison of, like, no, the Jedi. I've seen a Jedi.
Yeah.
And they're terrible people. I will take you out. I will do this. I'll do that.
I think I personally would have rather had, if you're not going to have Malicos, then have the Haxian Brood be a little bit more in the game, right? Because you just kind of have that. They come and they take you, and that guy's in the big hollow, and then there's just kind of like a weird cutscene where like Greez just kind of like gets you, leaves, And I always felt that's kind of lackluster. I feel like Malicos wasn't lackluster. I maybe would have spent more time with Haxian Brood than I would have Malicos.
Maybe, sure.
But you do get to have him in the story as this foil and person that betrayed and lies to Merrin.
Yeah.
Who is like, actually, I should leave Dathomir. There's nothing here for me.
The biggest takeaway
for
him.
Yeah.
The trickiest thing is like, well, if you weren't going to use him, what do you use to still try to keep that same story to get her to be able to do that, Because I feel like I like the idea, like she's here, she wants revenge. I love how she talks about this armored individual who came and killed all her people with these sabers, these weapons of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an armored Jedi, That's what she looks like it as being. But
yeah.
She was just a kid. She didn't know what Grievous was, I guess. But how do you still get Merrin to do the same thing, to agree to go with this Jedi? Like you take someone and make them claim to be a Jedi and be very evil and be on the opposite side of what she wants, to where she's like doubting. He's like, you know what, maybe I will go with you. You seem to be much different than what he was like. So
Yeah.
you got to have that foil
if
for
you
for Cal.
Yeah, if you take that out, then you have to add something in. Like,
I just don't know what the answer is for that. You know?
Off the top of my head, the Night Sisters are destroyed, so the Night Brothers take over Dathomir and subjugate the women now, you know, or something.
Yeah, but there are no women.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she would be, you know, when it comes to power structures and revolutions and when someone's on top versus when they're on top, like, generally, when a new power takes over, the previous power is subjugated, you know? So you could have that be a foil to Merrin if you wanted to. But it's neither here nor there. I just wish I kind of felt, other than it being Liam McIntyre, who I absolutely adore. You know,
Sure.
He played Spartacus. He
Weather Wizard, right?
Weather Wizard in the CW. He's also a Star Wars veteran in that he, I guess that he played Pyre in Resistance after Malicos, but still, you know. So I really like the actor. I just personally wish that I was able to like have more of a connection to that character. Like I feel really connected to Trilla. I don't feel connected to Malicos at all.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the best way to fix that is
Yeah, I
to
don't
make
know.
that work as well. Unless you just either change him or add more time with him to give him some other backstory that you got to deal with.
Sure.
Like you do a quest for him,
Yeah.
you know, to kind of
And
enter
it
that.
like
He also,
you know,
he's one of the few. I'm trying to remember all the times in this, but there are visions that the psychometry that Cal gets, and he gets something with Trilla when he touches the saber. He kind of, I think, gets some stuff with Cere, whether it's through like the guitar or through Trilla as well. You kind of see stuff with Cere and whatnot, and you get some history with them, but you don't get any of that with Malicos, which maybe could have helped with some of that if you could have seen where he did or what he did. Or
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in that Cal interacting with Trilla changes him. Cal interacting with Cere changes him. I don't feel like Cal changes much between meeting Malicos and killing him.
with the exception of like Merrin and him
Sure.
having a relationship,
Yeah.
you know.
But that's
So
more like Cal and Merrin. There's
Sure.
nothing with Malicos there,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it would have been, I don't know. It's the one part of the game, other than like being confused on like, oh man, I wonder what Cordova would think, you know,
Yeah.
at the end of this game, where I'm like, I miss opportunity for me. You know, I've played it 3 times now, and every time I'm always like, I think he's cool, but I don't like. It's just that he's a dark Jedi. Is
Yeah.
why he's cool. You know,
No, I get you.
like I care about everybody else. I don't really care about him.
I don't care about the Ninth Sister.
I care about. I do.
The Ninth Sister?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Ninth Sister.
Like, I feel like she's another one where it's like, I don't really have story. She's just a boss to be a boss. And I think in some
Yeah.
games you get that kind of element.
Maybe
where it's
because
like,
she's so unconventional is why I like her so much.
Really?
She also, like, out of all the other Inquisitors, just feels like, you know, I guess I'll do it. I found a Jedi. You know, like, very kind of, like, lazy in the way that she moves and thinks. Like, she doesn't want to kill you for the glory of the Empire. She's like, I don't want you to waste my time, you know? So I don't really care about her, but I do enjoy her. Malicos, the only real enjoyment I get from it is, again, just an amazing actor, good casting.
I guess the thing that Cal could get from Malicos is that he can see where the Jedi can fall to. Like, you kind of get that a little bit with Cere, because it's like she touched the dark side, so she has cut herself off. But here's someone who has touched the dark side and not cut themselves off.
Sure.
They've gone further than what Cere did, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that, or the Inquisitors. Like, these are different bad paths we could have. You could cut yourself off trying to protect yourself. You could become an Inquisitor. You could just become a dark Jedi like this guy, or I don't know. I wouldn't call him a Sith, you know.
Sure.
But you have to be careful in the ways you do things, or else these are paths that you could take. So maybe it's not like it changes him, but it could give him a glimpse as to what could be.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe like even using him as kind of a, hey, this is why Jedi and Night Sisters can't work together.
Yes.
Right? You agree?
Yeah. Why they can't work together.
Yeah.
I think that
And it can
could
be kind
good.
of more of like a cautionary tale and make you be like, well, maybe Cal shouldn't get with Merrin or bring him on the crew.
Yeah.
But
Like, could that taint him or
Yeah,
whatnot?
sure.
But I think it's a good. I think it's a good route where I love how they work it with Merrin. I like Merrin joining the ship.
yeah.
I mean, she saves you in the end too.
She does.
Which, I mean, it's not like she does a whole lot after you get her on the ship.
Yeah.
But she does do that, which is risking her neck enough to, like, if she'd have been there fighting or something like that, it'd been a little different. But I'm hoping to get more of that as we go into like
too.
Jedi Survivor and stuff, and get more Merrin story and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
And I love that she effectively does the same spell that Talzin does on Asajj Ventress and the 2 assassins to go kill Dooku. She does it on the Mantis to get close to the fortress.
Like cloak it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool too.
Is there anything else with Fallen Order? Should we kind of meld into some Battlescar stuff and just kind of keep trickling through everything as we go?
The last thing I wanted to say about Fallen Order is just I don't play a lot of games, you know. I might pick up like 1 or 2 new games a year, maybe, but it's pretty rare for me to play a new game 3 times.
Sure.
So I just thought it was a fantastic playing experience. I really enjoyed the combat. I really enjoyed the leveling. I personally love the look of Cal's silhouette with the poncho. Even getting away from our joke, I think it makes for a really cool look.
Sure.
For him.
I hate how plasticky a lot of the ponchos look.
Yeah. No, like if I'm trying to play like with a serious like this is what it should be, I wouldn't use the pink poncho. I probably wouldn't use some of the other ones.
Like when you mention like Qui-Gon Jinn and stuff like that, like if you put them in some of those ponchos where they look, I mean, they look very raincoat-ish, I guess, like a lot more rubber, plasticky kind of look. I'm like, man, I really want more of that cloth, flowy look for them. You know?
I get you.
Not so much, and like I don't want it to like I kind of like when it has like that triangular bottom as opposed to just kind of being big.
Sure.
Because also sometimes when he's walking around in a cinematic, his arm's just kind of going through it and it looks weird. And I'm like, dang it, I'll just take it all off.
Hey, man, I mean, that game looks fantastic for being as old as it is.
Sure.
You know, maybe we won't have that poncho problem in the next one.
Well, if there's no
there.
ponchos, you won't have that problem.
Well, if it's not, I might not play.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 12.
Yes. All right, so we're going to be jumping into Jedi Battle Scars. This is the novel that takes place 5 years, I believe, after.
It's I don't know if it's 5 years after.
Oh, no,
it takes
the
place
game is 5
in
years.
the 5-year gap between the
gap.
2 games.
They, at the very least, the Mantis crew has been together for a couple of years, I would say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. After the point of them being like, all right, what now? To like, all right, here's where we are.
Yeah. So if you haven't read the book, like the basic premise of the book is that the Mantis crew is given a mission to find a piece of technology called the Shroud.
The Shroud. Which
is a thing that can effectively make you disappear off of sensors, off of Imperial networks. Like it's invisibility cloak.
But it sounds like it's a personal kind of one.
It is.
It's not like cloaking the ship in Clone Wars.
No, it's for you yourself.
It's a personal thing.
Like you don't appear on holograms, stuff like that, right? It's something that's being developed, and if the Empire gets its hands on it, it's going to be bad.
Sure.
So if the Rebels can get it, that's going to be good. It's pretty basic. It's the premise of Rebel Assault 2. Have you ever played that on the PC?
I never played that, no.
With the there was a certain type of TIE fighter that can like cloak itself and kind of had that. But how did you feel about the book?
I think I like some stuff they do with some characters.
Yeah.
I think the overall feeling of the book for me was that it's not one of my favorites of what we've read so far.
Yeah.
I think part of it could be doing that it's a shorter book. It's not quite as long as some of the other ones. And maybe some things could have been done with a little bit more time overall. But there's definitely elements of the book that I like and that I enjoy.
Yep.
I do like getting a lot more time with Merrin in this book because we don't get any time with her in the game. Yep. So I do enjoy kind of getting into her head a little bit. Mm-hmm. But with you asking me that, I'm assuming yours is on the lower end.
I actively hated the first half and was entertained in the second half. But I didn't necessarily enjoy it.
Even the in the very beginning when we go into the Brood hideout and stuff, you didn't enjoy.
It was okay.
Gotcha.
But I kind of kept waiting for things to start. Like, okay, we're going to start developing these things, and we kind of would just like spin our wheels and do the same thing over and over and over again. And then there's just like there'd be like 40-minute sequences where it's just our characters fighting with each other, you know, which is just, you know, I don't want to poo-poo any, you know, corner of the galaxy too much, but I personally think that the relationship of Star Wars and sex is a weird one. Like, there's no sex scenes in Star Wars, right? Like, Rian Johnson has that famous quote where, like, the scene with Rey and Kylo touching hands in the Jedi, like, that's the closest you're ever get to a sex scene in Star Wars, right? And I'm a sex positive person. I'm an inclusive person, But I feel like they had this gave me the feeling of when I first heard what Star Wars fan fiction was. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. A whole bunch more stories I can go enjoy. And I'm like, what's slash fiction? And I'm like, oh, that's two characters doing it. And I really felt like there was way too much sex in this.
Way too much sex.
Yeah.
I mean, leading up to it, and it's like, okay, well, that must be what they're doing over there. But
to the point where characters just throw reason and rationality and shit out the window, and ignore really good points that Greez is making, and being like, well, my feelings though, or but love though, but do you love this person? You've known him for a week,
Sure, but
I don't know. There's something about it, Star Wars is about love, but it's not. It needs to be, an all ages thing, right? I don't know.
Well,
there was just some scenes where
about,
I remember when I was on the plane coming back from London, and I'm listening to this. It was an audiobook. It's Merrin and what's the Fret. They, for some reason, the audiobook guy gave them the same exact accent, so I was already annoyed by that. I couldn't tell who was speaking because they sound exactly the same.
I understand that.
And then also it would just go on for I felt like there was just a whole half hour while I was sitting there can we do something? I can't listen about this lady's hands anymore.
Her hands?
I don't care if Merrin's biting shoulders and collarbones and stuff, granted, when it comes to other stories, I think that sex can be a very, very interesting, provocative part of fiction.
Sure.
But I don't think it really has a place in Star Wars. I mean, yes, of course the characters have sex. So of course that stuff happens, but that's generally not the visual and fictional language of Star Wars, and I felt like it really drug down the entire first half for me.
See, it's weird. I want to talk about, because you said about it should be for all ages. You also said about sex, and I remember in Andor at a point, well, they just had sex.
Sure.
And I don't remember that being a problem, that sex was a thing.
It's because they just had sex. You're not reading it almost actively happening. You don't have these two characters go into Cal's room and have sex for 12 hours and they didn't, as he's sitting there waiting, I was I wonder what's going on in there, especially for a guy that has psychometry. He's going to go down there, touch his cot, and be what happened?
Sure. Yeah. So the fact that they were in there for a long time, you're that's, I don't like that.
I'm not
I assume what's going on in there the whole time is sex.
It was just I need the characters to, I need Merrin. I was really excited going into this, being I'm going to learn so much more about Merrin and stuff, and I think I learned a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of time was wasted with having characters repeat themselves a lot, and then just Merrin just having no character other than she's really horny right now, Now, I know there's the whole
okay,
she's rediscovering her fire and all that type of thing, but it's just okay. Fret is very, very attractive Merrin finds her very, very attractive.
Sure.
And we're going to be talking, this poor audiobook guy had to do both of their voices in the same exact accent. And it's I just remember at one point being I've never had to, I never had the feeling of I'm going to skip ahead. But there was times where I'm I'm bored. Can we skip ahead or something? Yeah.
Okay.
And that was just the first half. I feel like it got better towards the second half.
Well, sure, because it's I don't know, they ended up going forced more on mission stuff.
Yeah.
They had to actually,
and it has
there's
nothing,
also someone else jumps in,
sure,
and there's a love triangle now, so
yeah,
there's an issue
and
there,
it has
but
nothing to do with the fact that it's two women or anything. I would
Sure.
feel the same way if Han and Leia on the Falcon while they're in the asteroid are grabbing each other and biting each other's collarbones for 5 minutes.
Man,
it's
I just didn't feel that way.
Really? Yeah.
No, I didn't feel. I didn't feel oh god, this sex shit. Oh no.
I wasn't
I feel like
I wasn't
I don't think,
clutching pearls.
I also
or
don't think
anything.
that oh man, Merrin's just really horny. I feel like there's a element there where Merrin is she's lonely. She's lost all of her people. She has nobody. There's lots of those elements, and I feel like it's diving into a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
You could say that it happened really fast.
Yes.
I could maybe agree with that one. Cause
immediately.
There's a thing where it's it's a stormtrooper. Oh, she's not shooting me. She's pretty. I don't know. There's elements of that where I can be but this came really, really fast.
Sure.
But also there's.
I judge indie.
There's people who have fallen in love that, and they're I'm in love immediately, and this is how I feel about it. So I can't say well, this is wrong that she felt this way. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like there was man, there's just a lot of sex going on. I was okay, well they're in there. I'm gonna assume what they're doing, but we cut somewhere else.
Sure.
But I didn't feel like it's she's writing and then she takes off. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was. I didn't feel like it was 50 Shades,
really?
Or something like that.
I felt like it was more than I've ever seen or read in Star Wars. And again, I'm not sitting here like clutching my pearls and saying I'm a prude or anything.
Sure.
I just felt like it was very distracting. And I think, one, you can do everything that happens with Merrin's character. You can do it the same exact way and then maybe just be a little more economic in your writing.
Sure.
Because I think that was one of my probably more than it being very sex-focused was just like, I just feel like we just kept doing the same shit over and over again. Finally, something would start happening, you know?
I think my issue is that. I don't feel like we traversed as much. That's why I was like, I think it could have been longer maybe, or maybe she didn't have enough time when they were writing it. But there was more story stuff I feel like we could have done, or maybe more things we could have gone into instead or as well, just to make it feel like we were going and kind of doing more stuff.
I suppose it could just be anticipation. I was like, ooh, battle scars. Ooh, the fifth brother, like on the cover and stuff, and be like, ooh, okay. And imagining like, what could this be? This could be really cool. And then like it took us so long for the actual, I feel like, story to actually get going. And then it just spent so much time on something that I'm like, I don't know if this matches Star Wars' visual language at all, or the fictional language at all.
Gotcha, yeah.
So,
no, I mean, I think honestly, like, I would have liked a villain that maybe wasn't the fifth brother.
Yeah.
I think I had more issue with that, being that there's fight stuff that's going on and things that are happening, and he's a villain that we have to fight.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, well, this isn't a villain that we can like defeat, you know, which is often one of my things where I compare like Rebels to Clone Wars, and it's like Rebels, I feel like I could lose someone at any time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, I know this book takes place in between here and here.
Sure.
I'm not worried for Cere or Cal. You know, I'm certain these people are going to be making it into the game.
Yeah.
Because it would be weird to kill them in the book when you would probably want to kill them in the game instead, you know? So, like, part of my worry is that, like, well, let me just grab this character here because it's a big character people know already, maybe. They were just an Obi-Wan, you know?
Yeah.
And then also the idea that I think maybe...
He's also better he's ever been in anything I've ever seen him in.
Sure, yeah.
Like, man, he's taking on both of them?
Yeah.
That's weird.
He, like, froze them in place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like... Man, he never did that before.
Yeah.
Which is scary and cool, but I felt like he wasn't that strong in Rebels.
No,
and
I
this should
agree.
take
And
place before that, right?
I do think that power scaling, while it's really fun to talk about, isn't necessarily something that like a writer needs to worry about too much. It needs to be about like, well, what does a certain character bring to the table that makes it interesting, not just like they're super strong, yo. But yeah, the fifth brother didn't really bring anything because he doesn't have much of a character.
No.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember. I think they mentioned his planet at one point.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was called. I think it started with an A.
Something like that.
But I don't remember what it was.
It's a gigantic step down from Trilla.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not like his story is a big part. It's like he shows up at the prison when we need someone to fight and there's a problem. Yeah. He shows up at the end when we need to fight someone else and there's a problem, you know.
And I think the author could have maybe done a better job too. Like it doesn't do much to create dread in your characters when you're like, yeah, and there he is, and he also had a big stupid hat. You know, it's like you're not really making dread for me when you're actively just making fun of the character. You know, so I feel like that was a mistake as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought of it as more of like a Cal personality thing.
Well,
and not so much of just straight up.
There was one line that was done from no character's point of view that did it.
Oh, really? I remember it from Cal.
No, the Cow one makes a lot of sense.
I think Greez.
Of course,
I think both had like a moment like that. I was like, but then you hit it, and it's like it resists sabers.
Sure.
You know, and it's like, oh, no wonder he wears this helmet. And now it's more of like, it's not just goofy. There's a reason for it, and it's more intimidating because of that. You know.
Yeah.
But like if someone's just like, hey, he's got a weird glove on, but then he grabs your lightsaber and punches you in the face, like, oh, geez, shouldn't have made fun of his glove. You know?
Sure. Right. No, I get that. He just, he didn't really get to bring much to the table.
No.
I think that's kind of like my issue with the entire book was I think I just expected more.
I think, and here's what my thoughts were with it, because I don't, like you said, I felt like we kind of spun wheels a little bit. Like I felt like some of the getting in heads was really good. I enjoyed some stuff with Cere.
I think was my favorite
stuff
part.
with Cal.
Yeah. And Greez, of course.
And Greez, yeah. And there's some big moments with a lot of them.
Number one.
I also enjoy some of the stuff with Merrin too. I think that there is some retreading and like a lot of I don't know. It's weird for me to measure it in book time because it's like anime in a way where it's like, here's how long are they standing in this prison while everyone's fighting while there's like an argument or discussion or whatever is going on.
I think
but I think what happened is I think the author probably was given like, here's some plot lines that we're going for in this book or in this game. Make sure you get to these points for the start of the game. Here you go. And it's like, all right, well, I don't get the full freedom to write everything I want, and I have to make sure I have to end at these, you know. But I don't know. I don't know if a lot of these characters will all be in the game, if they'll have any connection. Fret and
Imri. Irie sounds better.
Okay.
The Nikto, right?
Yeah, the Nikto. They both leave by the end of the book, and while they maybe aren't going to be in the game, there was a nod towards like changing of the hollow table that they have.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe they're like, that's who fixed the table to do whatever new things maybe it can do in the game. You know, I felt like there was some stuff like that was kind of being brought into it a little bit.
I think that my main issue with this book is the issue I have with a lot of things that are kind of sold as like, you know, look at the rest of the story you didn't see, like in between two chapters, in that you can't do anything so significant that a person that's only playing Fallen Order and then only playing Survivor feels like, well, what happened? So you have to read the book. That's not good marketing strategy, you know?
Sure.
So that's why I feel like, oh, okay, that's why the characters don't really change. I don't think I learned anything about Hazi and Prime. I don't think I learned anything about Hazi and Prime, but I get you.
The one thing I thought was interesting was not Cassius. What's his name? Not Kestis. The bird dude.
The big bad bird dude.
Yeah, right?
I can't remember his name right now.
Claire. Someone's going to say it.
Someone's going to say it.
I know it's going to be. It's going to be like in here in a few minutes. But anyway, he's the guy who says, okay, there's the Shroud. I need you guys to go get the Shroud.
Yeah.
It should be over here in this vicinity. The one thing I really liked that he had said was talking about how he was from Alderaan.
Yeah.
And how the senator there has he's not willing to fight. He's not willing to do anything. He's just there as a lapdog for the Empire.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, when I was listening, I'm like, man, is Bale really doing such a good job?
He's that good.
That these people, like this guy here, like I don't think he liked the Empire either, right? He was with the Brood eventually. But I left there because he is so unwilling to do anything against the Empire. It's ridiculous. And it's like, no, he's building a rebellion. You know, he's working with people and trying to help whoever he can. And I was like, I think that was one of my favorite lines in the book, at least, being like, that's just how good Bale is.
It is.
Is that this guy has no idea, and he's doing as much as he can.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool.
It's stuff like that makes me, like, why I love the Mon Mothma stuff in Andor, and why I like Luthen, right?
Yeah.
And all that stuff, where it's like they have to play both sides, and to be able to push, you know, the scale this way, they have to equally make themselves look like they're trying to push on this one too, you know? So that's really cool. I really like that. And that was a good line about that, yeah.
I should look at my notes. Karis.
Karis, that's his name.
That's his name. I wrote Karis from Alderaan.
Yeah.
I didn't get that he was a bird person right away. And I went back, I'm like, oh, he's a bird person, okay.
Sure.
It was someone called him Big Bird. I'm like, wait, why do they call him Big Bird?
Big Bird.
And then I was like, oh, okay.
He's a bird.
Yeah, he's a bird. And there's like some bird people in SWTOR and stuff too. There's like a planet that has like some bird people in it.
Is there?
Yeah.
I was trying to rack my brain, like, how many bird people do I know?
When we were talking about it on Fallen Order during stream, someone had mentioned about the planet Rishi, I believe, and I think that's the planet that had the bird people in it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the same bird species that this guy was.
Sure.
So it easily could be a different species.
Okay.
But
yeah.
So things that I really liked about the book, though.
Yes.
I enjoyed in the very beginning. I like that there's this crazy adventure. They're trying to get to the Brood. And he's like jumping from rock to rock, and it's like stealth.
Yeah.
So like BD's like just tapping on him.
Yeah.
Like I like the chemistry between BD and Cal. I feel like it's still kind of the same from the game.
And it's fantastic to actually
It's
fantastic to get into Cal's head as a narrator for himself, not just me, the player, making Cal do things.
Yeah.
Right. Other than cutscenes.
Yeah. Now it does feel a lot like the game because like there's a lot of like there's some battle moments and stuff, and there's fighting happening. There's a lot of killing. I love like. Not the visuals, but like the story that they tell with Merrin, like using her flames, engulfing them, like them burning from the inside and stuff like that kind of stuff.
No, I love that
too.
That'd be terrifying. There was a small part of me, like, you know, because when you play a game and you take out a bunch of enemies, like, well, we're playing. That's the game. Like that's the whole point. But in the novel, when then suddenly Cal is transported into like a real situation, and I mean that like I'm in a whole different medium. I'm like, man. This motherfucker kills a lot of people.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I know that like Yoda says like the Force is to be used for knowledge and defense, never attack. But I think Cal skipped that day.
Sure,
because he even says later he's like, "Hey, I am a weapon. I'm nothing else. I can't inspire. I can't lead. I can't help people. You point me in a thing, and I kill everybody. I'm like, Jesus, Cal.
But that leads. I think that leads with where we're at and what we're talking about with Fallen Order.
Yes.
Is like, what is the Jedi now? Where have they gone? What could they become? And it's like there's a very fine line, and there's an empire that's also evil and doing terrible things too that we're trying to fight against. So like, as a Jedi, what should a Jedi do? Luke Skywalker has killed a lot of people too. You know,
Probably millions.
yes,
Because of the Death Star.
he blew up the Death Star. But like, oh, he's a good guy. So like, for me to look at Cal and be like, well, he's not a good guy because he killed less people than Luke Skywalker with a lightsaber.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing or anything.
Cal has killed less people than R2 has killed.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I agree. No, there was something in like the prose of the writing where it was like I had to like kind of pause for a second. I'm like, how does Cal like? What does he think about like taking so much life like that? You know, I mean, we could say the same thing about Luke and anybody.
Yeah,
really.
anyone really,
Yeah,
right?
I agree, but like he kind of like compares himself to Merrin, who is using her anger and the Dathomir and fire, the magics, right? And how it's like it's fundamentally dark.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, I'm opposed to that. But I'm kind of sitting there like, you know, now that I'm actually having someone write, like, Cal kills a bunch of people in this room, being like, what's the difference, man? Like, you're still, you know, dealing out death.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's like a bad thing or a flaw in the writing or anything. I think it's the contradiction of Jedi heroes that have to make that choice.
Sure.
Right?
Especially in this time, in this dark time.
Yeah.
Like, they don't get the choice necessarily to be like, I'm not going to kill anybody. Because sometimes it's like, there's Inquisitors coming after me. There's Stormtroopers coming after me. Darth Vader's coming after me. You know, whoever it is, I have to defend myself and possibly kill them, or else I'll be dead, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a tricky thing. But for me, it felt like I was reading the game in a way, where it's like, this is what I did in the game, so this is what Cal would be doing.
Like,
I killed so many people.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, especially, like, you know, Cal being like, you know, stem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that happened.
And he would do a stem, and he could, like, I could feel it coursing through my veins, and I'm going, like, does anybody else have this?
The stem thing?
Yeah, like,
I
you
know.
never reading Brotherhood, and Anakin's like, oh, fuck, a stem. You know? My power level went up a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
You know? So, like, there was, for me, it wasn't jarring or inappropriate or incorrect or anything, but there was a slight disconnect where I'm going, like, oh, that's a game thing, kind of, you know?
Sure.
For me.
Yeah, and the stims, like, they call them stims, so it makes me think of stimulant. So it's not like, maybe it's not like it heals, but it, like, just adrenaline boosts you a little bit to keep as if you healed, and then later on you still got to recover. But I don't know.
And I should say, too, like, to give the book as much, you know, or, like, to explain myself as much as I can, I didn't read any of it until I started coming back from Celebration.
Gotcha.
I didn't read or start before. So it was all after I had just been to the biggest Star Wars event in the world with some of the craziest announcements, like the most hype I've ever been. And then just because I didn't jive with the book very much, that's not necessarily the book's fault. I kind of like came in with a very high standard, you know?
Yeah, sure.
So maybe there's a little bit of that. With some of the other criticism that I have for it. But I mean, you know, it's like when I finished it, I had a great time. I loved the way that Jaro still is with Cal just a little bit. And, you know, like when Cal doesn't know what to do, he thinks back on that failed lesson of Jaro's, which is just do the next step. And we can do this piece by piece.
Yeah, piece by piece.
Yeah.
I remember that. I like that part
or
there.
step by step or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, it was like, I have to catalog all the pieces of my lightsaber.
Yeah.
It's like, but I haven't done anything. I have to do it tomorrow. It's like, what should I do? It's like, start piece by piece.
Yeah.
You know, like, all right.
I loved Greez in this book.
Greez?
Yeah. I
was it because he was the voice of reason to all the things that you're like, yes, listen to this man?
Well, yeah. I do feel like every time he would bring up a point, usually like in arguments, a character will bring up a point and then they'll try to either sidestep the point because they don't have a good response, or they'll address the point, and you know that's how all conversations happen, right?
Sure.
And I feel like every time Greez came up, like would say something, or you know, like a character would talk to Fret and be like, "Why didn't you tell us?" You know, that was my biggest thing in the whole book, where like it seemed like it was an acceptable thing that Fret didn't tell them everything that she knew before they went on that mission. You know, Greez obviously didn't think that, but Merrin, Cal, like they. You know, they kind of like came to like a thing. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I get why you did it then. Or it almost felt like the reader was supposed to feel that way.
Merrin knew, right?
Sure.
Like Merrin was told
I
before.
I was
and
mad
then
at Merrin
she wasn't. She didn't tell either. But I think it's one of those things too, where it's like it wasn't that she was trying to do it against the Mantis. But she was like, if I tell them, will they suspect me and not trust me more? Right?
I can't imagine.
It's one of those things like, should I tell them or should I not? And how would it affect them if I do?
I guess my problem with it, and it's not a problem, this is how life works, is that I wasn't satisfied with the conversation when it ended. I wasn't like, I don't think we addressed the points that they made. And all you came back with was, I was scared. But I was scared is a valid point.
Sure.
Like, you can be scared and make dumb decisions. I just didn't like that those dumb decisions came at the expense of, like, well, Merrin's really, 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 really into her. You know? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what my best argument against that is. But, like, I get what you mean. I think that there's that trickiness of, like, I'm already on the back end of this group because I'm a stormtrooper.
Sure.
Which, I mean, she lied about being a stormtrooper.
She lied about leaving the Empire. She lied by omission about the codes not changing and stuff.
Well, that's the one that
about the Shroud
that happens
person.
with going into it, right? Is that they're going to this prison to get this secret Shroud device schematics, actually. Yeah. And she's like, I haven't told them that I haven't left the Empire because I still need my clearance codes to be able to do things and stuff, right? So, in a way, it helps them, but...
Well, not in the fact that, like, they had, as they found Irie, right? And they had to spend 12 minutes talking about everything that Fret didn't say, and then they acted. Sure. Whereas if they had gone in there with all the information that Fret had, which I heard the explanation. I don't know if I was like, why would that change how they felt if you told them, like, hey, actually, I'm still there and I have the codes. This is why. You know, I don't know if that would really. I was trying to, for me, and it might be. I might just be wrong, but I was like, I don't know if that would change if I would trust her more or less. If anything, all it did was just create this huge amount of time they had to try to. They once again had a huge fight in the middle of the mission.
It's also one of those things
which was frustrating,
where they I think it's like some TV shows that we've watched, right? Where it's like, this is not the time to argue this point.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it happened. It's too late now. Let's move on to the next thing.
Sure.
But I do like that they made a prison break as a big distraction so they could escape.
Me too.
It sounds like a cool game moment to me.
It did. Yeah,
where
absolutely.
It's like, all right, guys, how we getting out of here?
Yeah.
Jailbreak.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting out. Everyone's running and everything.
And I actually, you know, I think that I was just not connecting with the character of Fret in the beginning just because I was like, what are we doing? You know, but halfway through, as we learned more, as we were introduced to Imre, as Fret became more of a character outside of just being the stormtrooper that's turning, I end up warming to her a lot more. And there was many times that like she legitimately made me laugh and stuff. But I think the two main things was just like a very, very, very big focus on the characters being attracted to each other and doing stuff to each other like on camera. And then the other one, I just lost it. But I had another thing, but it didn't gel with me. I can't think of it right now.
Them fighting?
The infighting was yeah. I think fights and disagreements can be done really well, especially after Greez, and if you haven't seen the book, this is a spoiler, Greez loses his arm to the fifth brother, or to Cere's lightsaber used by the fifth brother. That scene after that, when Greez is just sad and angry and rageful, that was amazing. All the other arguments in the whole thing just like, you know, kept circling around a point and then never got there.
No, I mean, Greez's story I thought was good, and I enjoyed that. I felt really bad, and I'm like, oh no, how's this going to be for flying and everything? And then luckily we had like, I don't think it was Fret. Maybe it was Fret. One of the two could also fly and was able to get us off the planet and everything, so we could go and heal. But I did like getting into Merrin's mind where she was like, I just use this to help heal.
Yeah.
I think it was Irie. Whichever, I forget the pronunciation. The Nikto. But she used it to heal her, and then she was like exhausted. And then when Greez come in, she's like, oh no, I didn't know how bad he would be. Yeah. Like, what do I do? And she didn't go out to go help Cal. Greez went, who was the pilot, who should have stayed back, you know. But he's like, I'm gonna go, and like I like what Greez did. He's willing to throw himself. He is willing to help sacrifice himself or whatever. Yeah. Even in moments when it's like, well, that's probably not the job he should have. But he will do that, and I thought it was really good. And I love it towards the end too, where it's like even the 3-armed Greez, he was like, I'm up there and I was flying around shooting down ships, and you know, like he's like, I was doing all
so
kinds
happy.
of stuff, you know. It's like, you should have seen him; it was great, you know.
Yeah, like you want to say to Greez, like, dude, like, yes, you've lost an arm, but you still got one more than everyone else.
Sure, yeah.
You know, like it's still good, man. You're still whole.
There was the part where I don't know if it was from a seer perspective or whatnot, but like Greez is working on trying to pilot his ship that he has set up for his 4 arms, and Cere's trying to like help him in any way she can to like pick up the slack of his arm not being there anymore.
Sure.
And like it was like a sweet kind of moment of like them gonna like it's a lot of the things are like here's Merrin and Cal, and then here's Greez and Cere, and like there's certain pairings we have. Sometimes it's not, and it's like here's Cal and BD. Yeah. And that's why Merrin kind of feels left out, I think, a bit too.
Sure.
Which is why she's like, when there's someone else and there's one new person on the ship, because it was an odd number already anyway, in a way. I mean, you can say like people have already looked at Cal and Merrin as like a ship, and they're like, can we have something there? Will we not have something there?
Yeah, and that certainly is built in this book too.
Sure. But there's lots of times where it's like, Merrin's talking about like, well, Cal has BD, and Cere and Greez like have each other talk to her. I don't have anyone. So I think like Fret coming in and being someone that's willing to listen and willing to be vulnerable to her and stuff too, because how else do you gain trust but to make sure that if I show my vulnerability, it's more likely for someone to trust me. You know, that's kind of how it happens. That's kind of what they start doing, but she also lies within some of it too. Yeah. So it just leaves a lot of complications.
I guess I also, going into the book and not knowing where things were going, I was immediately distrustful of Fret.
Man,
being like,
the first time,
do we like? Why do we trust her?
When we
she's a fascist. She's a Nazi.
We took her on the ship, and I was like, oh man, what if in Survivor we have a stormtrooper that's on our side on the ship? That'd be so cool. That's what went through my mind first. Yeah. I wasn't like, why is she coming? Yeah. But I just didn't know where we were gonna go with anything, you know.
So I guess that's why like it's not disappointment, but like I was kind of like, Merrin, what are you doing? Like you have no idea who this person is, what they really think. Like she could just be seducing you because you're so damn horny.
I guess I don't know.
So I kept kind of waiting for the axe to fall, and it did, just in like ways where I'm like, oh, that's what she was lying about. Yeah. Why? Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
She just didn't think that people would.
If Fret appears in the game, like in the next game, I'll be like, hey, Fret, you know. But if she doesn't, I won't be like, what? Where's Fret?
I don't think that they're going to show up. I think maybe they could be voices or backstory that maybe pops up in like.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we had that one time when Cal grabs the Stormtrooper armor and gets a vision and stuff. I thought it was cool being kind of in his mind of like what it feels like and what he's going through, like seeing it and how it's like, to him, it feels real. Yeah. I am this person, you know?
Yeah, no, that was really cool.
When thinking about that.
I don't feel like I get that in the game.
Yeah, if you go and think about like what he felt with Trilla, like it looks like he's going through some stuff. Yeah. But now context that with like he feels that he is her. Yeah. And he's really feeling her emotions, her thoughts, her memories, like all those kind of things. I thought that was really kind of a neat insight from that. And I think into the game you don't quite get that because he kind of just like, oh, family used to be here. Yeah. You know?
Well, even the one with Trilla where you're seeing everything from Trilla's point of view and as a Padawan, like I feel like the little Rhodian Padawan kid, like when you look down and he's crying and he's like, you think I'll be okay? And I and Cal know you will not. You will not be okay. Mm-hmm. And it's but you don't really necessarily, at least I don't feel like I'm feeling Trilla's feelings as I am more of an observer.
In that moment there, is Trilla feeling fear,
She's gotta be.
Is that what's going through? And in that case, Cal should be feeling how afraid she was in that moment. The torture scene when he is her and she's being tortured, like the pain, the fear, like all those kind of things.
I think like it's a cool idea to have it be a point of view because like Cal was literally inhabiting that person. Mm-hmm. But not being able to see the actor's or the character's face kind of like takes away the emotional resonance a little bit for me. Like I'm just like, oh,
like in the game?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Like if I could actually see Trilla like in that torture scene, like I don't want to see it, but I would feel, I think, like especially the first time I experienced it. Now that I know what's happening, you know, when I do a different playthrough or watching you, I can feel a little bit more. But at least the first time, I don't think I really realized just how much they did to her to break her, you know?
Sure.
And it was because, I couldn't see her face. I need to see people's faces to read them.
Really?
You know? That's just like the base instinct visual storytelling, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess like in that, I'm like, Jesus sucks. Like, but I also get what you mean. Like, I feel like it's more an observer. I think even seeing it from a third-person perspective, not thinking about how it affects Cal, you're still not necessarily thinking about he is feeling all these emotions from them. Yeah. Even if you're like, geez, that sucks. Oh, man, look at that force push or whatever, you know? Mm-hmm. But,
yeah. But I mean, it was probably my least favorite book that we've done on Badonkagonk. It's certainly not my least favorite Star Wars book. There's some legend stuff that's not good.
Yeah.
Definitely not good.
No. I mean, there's definitely been other books that I've enjoyed more than this one.
Yeah.
But there's definitely elements of this that I still enjoyed and stuff. I don't think I disliked as much as you seem to. But there's definitely I'm like, I wish it would.
At no point,
I wish I wouldn't spin my wheels here, and I wish we would expand maybe here. It was kind of how I felt.
At no point in this book was I like, what? Why didn't they put this in a game?
Yeah.
You know? Which I feel like should be your standard.
I suppose.
When you're like, hey, we're going to be making like a middle chapter between these two games. Like, okay, what's the standards? Like, make it feel like you're...
So, like, if that was like a DLC for the game that you could play, you're like, I don't need it.
I'd be like, well, the 12-minute sex scene was a bit much.
I don't think it's a 12-minute sex scene. I don't know where you get it, but
it felt like it.
I don't know where it's from. There was one thing in the very beginning. I still didn't mention it yet, but one of my favorite things in the book too, towards the beginning, was that he's going to this Haxian Brood location, and they're there and they're like sneaking around.
Yeah.
Which, for me, like game wise, I'm like, this would work really well for a game. I like him sneaking through and seeing all the people in this cantina place, and there's stormtroopers there. And I love that they're like, there's a stormtrooper drinking in his little induction hole. And I just picture
little induction hole.
I just picture him like with a little hole here, just like through the thing. I was like,
no,
that's really cool. I like that they have that in there.
I do like the story structure in that the entire first mission would be made so much easier if we had the Shroud, right?
Sure.
Like Cal has to like secretly infiltrate, and the only way to do it is be small enough to not get picked up on the scanners, which means he has to pretty much just compel himself through it, right?
Yeah.
But if they had the Shroud, then they probably want to do all that type of thing.
When they were talking about that, did you ever think of Warwick Davis from Rebels? Rook.
Yeah.
Because he had like I don't know if it was every episode, but he had like kind of a moment when he stealthed and like Sabine like painted him so they could see him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this like
I didn't think about that.
Is there like a
that's
precursor
interesting.
and like we do get that and that's what he had?
Sure.
Or because like that's how I imagined when they were describing it, like Predator, you know, like you're going to be invisible and people just won't see you. Or is it meant to be, because you mentioned more of like kind of in a tech way, you won't be seen on scanners and cameras, and is it more like Keenan from Mystery Men, where when you don't look at him, cameras can't see him?
Yeah. I'm invisible, but only when no one's looking at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and maybe like as my final thing too, because I maybe I was just confused, but did the Shroud actually exist, or was it just a theoretical design in Imri's mind?
There were schematics that she had that she wouldn't let out, and I don't think she ever tried to build it.
Like she
was
said,
afraid that you could get to that.
Yeah.
But there's also elements where it kind of felt like the technology might not quite be there.
Yeah.
You needed some kind of special mineral from a place that
very volatile. Yeah.
Karis could get, I think it was. So that's why like they never had it. They made a fake one to kind of trick them into having like, here, this is it, you know?
Yeah.
But careful with that. I don't know why we got that just sitting around.
Be very careful with that. It's volatile as well.
So it didn't exist, at least yet, and I don't think she's ever actually tried to build it. But I mean, it could still be a general idea as to what maybe leads, and maybe that is like in Rebels, because that's later on in Rebels.
Yeah.
Maybe that is made, and that's something that could be used. But I don't know why he could do that, but
But like we got to the end, and whenever Emery's like, technology's probably not even there anyway. I was like, well, damn, we went through a lot for something that actually has no possibility of being made.
Sure, but it was all just information they had that they were believing, and it wasn't true. There was never a time though in the book that I didn't agree with Cal more, where like he was so angry that Karis had a jetpack. And I'm like, those dang bounty hunters, man.
Yeah.
They're always on jetpacks flying around like, get back down here, you know? And I was like,
he even references one of like the Haxian Brood droids where it's like, oh, yeah, you know, what if H4D7 attacked me right now? He just kind of made up some things.
And he's like TL1.
Yeah. But it gave me the feeling of when you're playing Fallen Order and one of those droid guys show up, and I'm like, well, who the hell is 4D76?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Well, and I wrote down too, like, there was a bounty hunter and his name was like Blorp or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just a weird name. Blorp, all right.
Blorp.
But
also, have you ever looked at a Nikto and called them a lizard?
I don't think so.
Like
they've described him a lot as a lizard, right?
Yeah, like multiple characters, like your lizard lady. And I remember thinking, like, is a Nikto a lizard?
How do you spell Nikto? I want to look at one.
Nikto.
Okay, I spelled it right. Dang it! Why is that's not Star Wars? I mean, this guy looks a little lizardy, but I don't know if he's. This is Nikto Green Star Wars.
Yeah.
But then, like, I'm pretty sure this is I'm Gonna Die, and he does not look like.
He doesn't seem. I don't know.
He doesn't look like a lizard.
I guess I've never looked at Nikto and been like lizards.
Though I did. I like. You kept talking about the hands. The one that was in my mind was like, "You're a purple girl with the mullet," or whatever it was, where they kept talking about her mullet.
Yeah. No, that cracked me up a bunch, especially from Greez.
Yeah, I laughed about that one. Yeah. And I paused it and I was like, I love that Greez just like he's like, it's just funny. I don't know. Sure. It was the mullet thing that got me with it. Mm-hmm. So,
but yeah, no, I think that if I had to rate out of 10, it might be like a 4 for me.
Okay.
There were moments that I feel like were an 8. There were moments I feel like we were 2. But I would probably average it out of 4.
Have we read a book that was like out of 10?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if we read one that was like way up there. Like,
I mean, I think I have, but not on
Badonkagonk yet. Okay. They're like the best ones have been like an 8 or something.
Yeah, I would say an 8 or
like Brotherhood maybe, or
yeah,
I like Brotherhood a lot, and I liked Master and Apprentice a lot.
Master and Apprentice a lot.
So like those ones are kind of higher on my list. But also I think too, the ones where I'm like, I know what Anakin and I know what Cal and I know what these people kind of look like.
Sure.
I think I enjoy those more naturally than the ones where it's like this is all brand new stuff. So. Yeah. We might have a time to get a question or so if there's anything that's kind of put in here. See if we can read. What's this from? Carl?
Oh, Carl has a super chat.
Yes. Can you read it?
It's very small. Badonkagonk. Hey, Aaron and Eric. Just want to let you know my birthday is next Friday. Revenge of the 5th. Ooh. Since it is now one day after Star Wars Day, I feel my bond with the saga is deeper. By the way, where in Ohio do you live? We live in Marietta, Ohio, which is the first settlement in Ohio and the whole Northwest Territory. And that's from the Europeans' perspective.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So...
But yeah, happy birthday. That's awesome. I also feel like choosing May 4th to be my my wedding anniversary brought me a little closer too, or at least brought my wife a little closer.
Like, nah,
I don't know if I can get much closer.
Now I have to.
Yeah.
I didn't notice this too, but Gonk ran a poll which says, "What did you think about the book?"
Yeah.
We had 11% said I really didn't like it.
Okay.
What is that, 17% or is that 19%?
That
19%.
Yeah,
90% says I didn't like it. 20% said I really liked it, and 50% said I liked it.
Yeah, it's 12% that really didn't like it.
12.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. Yeah,
sure. I mean, there's 50% that really enjoyed it, but then everyone else kind of like it was okay or I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So might not be the best. Track record for it.
Yeah, and I don't like if anybody came up to me and said, "Hey, dude, that was my favorite Star Wars book," I'd be like, "Awesome!
Yeah,
I am super happy for you," and that comes from the bottom of my heart.
Perhaps one of the things too is like we've talked about, like I would love to have a horror Star Wars like show or movie or something, which is something that hasn't really been that done in Star Wars. They've kind of touched and whatnot, maybe in Bad Batch or some Clone Wars episodes, but to have like it mainly be a horror movie, I think it's something that would be new.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be against that. I think the ideas of like if this is kind of more of like if this is meant to be a little bit more of a romance novel with like some action stuff tossed into it, like if people really enjoyed that, I hope they enjoy that and they like that kind of stuff too. But it might not be a for everyone kind of thing. Just like a horror Star Wars show might not be for everyone either,
Sure.
Andor may not be for everyone either, Just those kind of things. I just like having more genres within Star Wars or Marvel or whatever.
I agree.
It is, just where it's like not everything we make is going to be for every single buddy, but hopefully there's some stuff you like.
I didn't think that like the look of the Darksaber matched Star Wars visual language. I didn't think that the Inquisitor lightsaber like match to Star Wars visual language, but just because that's what I think doesn't mean that that's what it is, I think the Star Wars fandom itself needs to do that more.
Sure. Like for me, the romance stuff I thought was fine. I just didn't like. My thing was like some of the infighting and some of the like spinning wheels.
Yeah.
That I'm like, man, can we spend this time on other stuff? I'd rather them kiss more.
Sure.
You know, like
No, and I think it's just it's exaggerated because I wanted more to happen.
Sure.
You know?
yeah,
I mean, like Shadows of the Empire is one of my favorite things ever, and that has an entire scene where Xizor is trying to seduce Leia, you know, and it's extremely sexually charged, you know.
Yeah.
But it felt like it matched, and it also had a million things happening.
There's another Star Wars book that's more of a romance I've heard. It's the
Lost
the
Stars.
Stars ones, right?
Which
And
I'm very much
I've
looking
heard that
forward
one's
to.
been like well received.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind reading that one to see kind of like what
Yeah.
they do with that, because there's not I haven't read a lot of romance books
Yeah.
or anything, and this one like touches on it, but like you're saying, like I don't know if it was done the best that it could have been done. I would have liked to have seen it done maybe a little different or somehow better, but I don't have the answers to exactly what I think would have been the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, hey, we also have we have a whole new super chat here.
Yes, there's a new thing here.
Nang Stillagic.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, nostalgic. In the novelization of A New Hope, when Luke trained on the Falcon, Obi-Wan puts his hand on R2 and whispers quietly, "It's good to see you again, old friend."
In the novelization, huh? I've never read any. I don't think I've read any of the books for the movies.
Is that true? The novelization that was done by there's not an updated novelization, is there?
I don't think they've updated any of them. Not that I
interesting.
know of.
The novelization is the first time I ever read the word Palpatine.
I've never seen. I don't think I've read any of those books. I don't
Really?
know a whole lot about what the novelization.
I
bring
recommend
versus the,
one and only one, and it is the Episode 3,
I was
Revenge
like,
of the Sith, Matthew Stover novelization. That I love Revenge of the Sith, but I think the story in the book is exceedingly better.
Gotcha. All right, let's see. We have maybe.
We got a couple more minutes left. We also had a video that we wanted to watch too.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a video.
Yeah, there was a video popping up. So I say we check out this video. I saw about 2 seconds of it, and they're like, "Oh, we should watch this on Badonkagonk." And then I think you saw about 2 seconds of it.
Well, yeah, it was sent
as
to me,
well.
and I was like, "What's this?" And you're like, "What are you watching?"
I was like, "Don't watch that!"
I don't know. It was sent to me. Just stop it. I'm like, oh, okay.
So let's check out this video for Jedi Survivor, hyping it up. As Badonkagonk gets... Oh, I had the restraining bolt on. Crap. Sorry. I'm sorry, buddy.
Remember, just feel it.
All right.
You're on Kobo. The Mogul Wampa thing is coming. You're not scared.
Kobo.
Show me focus. Good. Not playing baseball.
Right.
You will take me to the senator now.
Take me to the senator
No
now.
less wrist.
Less wrist.
Mark, you know I don't actually have the Force, right?
BD1 says no excuses. Hold it. You get 2 lightsabers?
Well, technically one, but I can split them.
You never gave me 2 lightsabers.
Oh, that's so great.
Look at the first
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, buddy.
Whoa.
Yeah. Ooh, it's like a woolly. There's like a woolly Wampa.
Okay, now use your Force powers to pull that sphere.
I really don't need you to explain the Force to me.
That's great.
Man.
That's fantastic. I hope Mark was given a whole bunch of money for that.
If
really
was,
do.
If I was the actor for Cal, I'd be so excited to be able to like, I just
Yeah.
get to do a random
Yeah.
ad with Mark Hamill.
Mark
Sure.
Hamill gets to train me to be a Jedi?
Yeah,
You know?
like,
That's
why
so
not?
fun. That is awesome. I saw 2 seconds of that, and it was like, I was mad that I saw it, of course, because
Sure.
I would have liked to have been able to react to it, not knowing that they're both in there, but that was awesome.
No, I think it's a really cool idea
Yeah.
for doing an ad, and
Uh-huh.
it advertises it without necessarily showing too much. You
Yeah.
know, like we saw like a Wampa and a Rancor and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like it gave away a whole lot of
Yeah.
things. I don't think.
No, not at all. And yeah, I mean, Wampas, I'm sure there's different types of animals on different planets, so Wampa doesn't always need to be in the ice, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, and I feel like we've seen other Wampas. I'm trying to remember from where.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Mhm.
I feel like it's been in canon somewhere, but I can't remember this time because I feel like a brown Wampa I've seen at some point.
Really?
But I'm trying to remember why. Unless it was maybe SWTOR that maybe had something, or maybe it just was Wampa-like.
It could be, yeah.
So that's always possible too, because there's some
Sure.
creatures where I'm like, oh, that's kind of like this, but it's not.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, oh, that's an Exu, you know? And I'm like, oh, cool.
All right,
So-
well, Jedi Survivor starting tomorrow. Did you have any, like, last-minute things that you're, like, anticipating, that you're expecting to happen?
I've like back and forthing with like how much I want to like try to expect and anticipate anything from it, because I don't want to do the thing where it's like, dude, you could have Quinlan show up maybe because he's still around. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we fall into the path. Maybe we tied in with a little bit of what Obi-Wan's been doing or something, you know? Or if I hype that up and I get in my head and I'm like, that's what I really want to see, and we don't do any of it, then I don't want to be sad that we didn't. Because the Fallen Order, I had no idea really what to expect.
Yeah.
And I had fun playing that game. I had fun playing it again with you. So it's I enjoy the story and seeing where Cal goes with it, and I hope they just do a good job as a whole. Like, I just want to still enjoy Cal, hopefully dive into Merrin more. And the one thing I don't want to have happen, which I'm hoping not, I think I heard someone say that they're not going to do that, but when you play God of War, how many times you start a new game and you don't have any powers anymore?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Cal, having gone through what he's gone through, shouldn't lose his force push and force pull and all that stuff. You should start with that because he's gone through that journey.
I agree.
And then, is there more things he can get, or can he amp them up more? Or
I think that's why, like we saw previously on a Badonkagonk, like the stance video, like I don't think it's about taking away from Kratos to make him depowered and then power him back up. I think it's adding new things.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about, like, in that book, there's this moment where Cal's like, I do not know what to do next. And there's a conversation with him and Cere where it kind of feels like maybe one of the things that they'll do is like, defeating the Empire, rebuilding the Jedi Order, but like creating like a safe haven for people maybe. I wonder if like there'll be something with that. Like Survivor isn't just about Cal, the survivor, but finding other survivors and giving them somewhere safe.
I mean, if that's what it is,
that's what it feels like to me.
It feels like it could really push in with the idea of the path and what that is meant to be. But I don't know if that's been around for a long time, for not a long time. I'm also curious.
Not just Jedi too, all different types of survivors.
Sure. I'm also curious on Cere, and I'm excited to see what we do with her, because in this book we didn't talk about it too much, but she's struggling with the idea of trying to save people from the dark side.
Yeah.
But now you can be like, well, they're not trying to save stormtroopers, which sure, but it's the kind of the Jedi, the dark side people that they're like, if we can get them to our side and save them after
no one's
them
ever
being
really
tainted,
gone.
you know,
Yeah.
like I'm curious on what we do with that. And she also had that circlet thing that she like went and collected.
Like the crown,
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, this Jedi artifact or whatever, like she still wants the Jedi Order to be a thing.
She does.
And
she also doesn't want to betray that last request of Trilla, avenge me.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like, you were right, there is a part of me in here, and it's too late for me to do anything about it. But that's not the case for everybody. Like, she tries to turn the fifth brother.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think that's going to work, Cere.
To their detriment, right?
To the detriment, absolutely.
I mean,
but I've so much, like, that was one of my favorite parts of the book, is because I feel like, Cere actually changed a little bit. That's cool.
Yeah.
And all the other characters, I think, are kind of just like spinning their wheels until Survivor starts.
Probably, yeah. It feels like Cere.
Except for Greez.
And I did enjoy, too, we talked about the dark side with Cere and stuff, but this book kind of gets in her head a little bit, explaining and talking about how she feels about all that and like how she never wants to touch that again. And I like those kind of moments, too. So I'm excited to see what Cere does, if she ends up being more artifact-y hunting, if she's going to try to like turn a lot of people, you know, and try to save people, or what.
Sure.
So, with us having more battle droids in this one, maybe there's a little bit less like, let's kill all the stormtroopers and people, and more of like, well, we'll fight creatures and droids more.
I get what you mean. Like, I want to say, I have no problem killing stormtroopers. I mean, like I have no problem when Nazis get, shot in a movie.
Sure.
But the book was like, well, maybe that stormtroopers, like trying to get out and lying to their friends until the right moment.
This one was like, hey, wait, So, I don't know. I hope to see some connections with the book. Even I don't expect it to be like big things.
Yeah.
But like I said, if the holo table that had planets on it now has some more stuff, and it's just like, well, I know Fret or not Fret. Was it Fret? It's either Fret or the Nikto. One of the two, like added it on so that they could be able to communicate if they needed to or something like that. I now know like why that came from.
Sure.
Whatever. But just little things like that are kind of cool.
Yep.
But getting in the mindset of like Cal and Cere and Merrin more, I enjoy that because you don't get that in the game.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing Cal, so sometimes I don't fully get what's going through in his head. And it's the same way of like when we were reading, I think it was Brotherhood, where I'm like, it's kind of cool getting a feeling of how the Force feels whenever they're going to do a Force jump. Because when watching a show or the movie, they just do a Force jump. And it's not really explained as to like feeling it kind of course through them and like how exhausted you feel when you use the Force a whole bunch or whatnot, you kind of just look at like, well, they have connection to the Force, they just use it. Not like, oh, I'm too tired, I can't now,
Sure.
So I like getting those extra elements, and this book gave me some of those, which I liked. But yeah, I think there could have been a better version of this book that would have been more for what I wanted.
Yeah.
But it also could have just been like I was playing Fallen Order. I really enjoy that game. I'm looking forward to Survivor, and I was wanting this to be like right there on par with that, and it just wasn't quite for me.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that was a huge conversation about a small group of characters and all the events that they've been through so far.
Sure.
But like you said, you are playing Cal, and tomorrow you play
So
Cal
excited.
again.
It'll be at 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll be starting up and playing Jedi Survivor. If you guys want to join me, we're also having a giveaway for a PlayStation 5, Jedi Survivor, and a headset. So make sure you're there to be able to get a chance to win that. And just enjoy a story. Whether I'll be going a good bit tomorrow, and then they'll have a little gap before the next time. So if you are playing, hopefully you get a chance to play ahead of me, and I won't spoil people. So I know some people don't want to get spoiled. But if you aren't going to play it and you want to see some story stuff too, come join me. We'll have a fun time. We'll talk about what we see.
Yeah. Now, unlike all other Badonkagonks before us, we talked about it but didn't confirm what book we're doing next.
Oh, yeah, we haven't.
I
feel like it should be between one of the two that we kind of talked about.
Yeah, there were two things, and I wonder if, could we maybe try to do a quick poll?
Sure. Let's
You
do a
wanna do
poll
that?
and see what you guys
About what
think that
book
we
we're
should
going to be
do.
tackling next, and then also we got to figure out
when the next
when the
one's
next
gonna
one's
be.
going to be. So it's going to be between two things. It's going to be between the Ahsoka novel or the first of the Thrawn novels. Which, do you know exactly what the first one is called?
Man, I forget what it is.
I just looked it up the other day or yesterday and did not commit it to memory. Now, it's not going to be Heir to the Empire, the old Timothy Zahn stuff. It's going to be the new canon stuff. Let me make sure I have it here. Or someone probably has it in there. It's just called Thrawn, the first one. So it's going to be Ahsoka or Thrawn. Obviously, we are highly anticipating the Ahsoka series coming up, and we want to have just a little bit more context for whenever that thing happens. So we have a couple months before that happens, and we're going to be covering some books there.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a lot of corners of Star Wars that we haven't covered yet, that we've started and haven't processed on yet, but we do want to make sure that we're trying to be as relevant as possible, and if we can make those reactions a little bit better by making sure we cover those before we start.
There was a
that's gonna
moment
be it.
in Bad Batch
Yeah.
that you and I were just more excited because
because
of a thing we read in a book recently and
Yeah.
stuff. So I will say that it looks like we will have it on the 25th of May.
25th of May. That's a good day. That's a good Star Wars day because in 1977, on the 25th of May, the world changed forever with Star Wars.
Star Wars.
That's a pretty good one. And I think, I want to end the poll. So, dang it. It's so close to the perfect number. Nope.
What?
End it now. 66.
All right.
All right. I think that it was a very quick poll, but if you're here, you're here. And you got to make sure if you're watching this later, you are here to make those split decisions for whenever
So what
I
won?
internally panic. That was Thrawn. Thrawn.
We will be doing the first Thrawn book then.
So everybody,
Which
if
will
you
be
haven't
really
read
cool.
Thrawn yet, you got some homework. We are going to be doing coverage of leading up to Ahsoka in that book next Badonkagonk on the 25th of May.
Yeah.
Is Thrawn.
And Daniel's right. We're also on the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, which is why I have this shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
for the 40th anniversary
Yeah.
from Celebration. So
We got so many cool shirts and stuff from Celebration.
Yeah.
I love this Rebels one so much.
maybe we should watch Return of the Jedi and talk about it.
Okay. Now?
No.
Badonkagonk, put it on.
No.